Going to call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. All please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or silent prayer as your conscience finds appropriate. Thank you. Please be seated. Members of the council, you have a draft agenda before you. Are any changes required to that agenda? And do you each individually have, let me know if you have any conflicts of interest on any agenda items.
No conflicts for me. It looks good.
I'm good, thank you.
I'm good. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. If there are no amendments and no conflicts of interest, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
You guys are talking at the same time, so I would say that Councilmember Foe got the motion. I didn't see who the second was.
That was Councilmember Smith.
Councilmember Smith, thank you. So is there any discussion of the agenda, of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted? Are there any public comments on the agenda? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia does not appear to be here. Is that correct? Definitely not. Councilmember Kalan?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation on fiscal year 2025 budget priorities, guidelines, challenges, and opportunities.
Deputy Director Jones will walk us through this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Yes, tonight's presentation is yet another budget presentation as a part of a series of budget presentations, this one being budget priorities, guidelines, challenges, and opportunities.
Mr. Jones, do you have the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, let me pull that up. All right. Bear with me for a second here. Let's see. All right, sorry about that. So again, tonight's presentation is on budget priorities, guidelines, challenges, and opportunities. So budget priorities. These are the understood funding priorities. Staff use what we hear from the mayor and council and the community, along with items developed by the staff leadership team. As the proposed budget is further developed, staff will work to align budget priorities with the town's vision and commitment statements. The draft budget to date is focusing on 4 broad categories of priorities. The priorities that staff have identified are the first being delivery of enhanced services to town residents. These are the rising expectations in the delivery of services. Staff are working to continue funding existing positions, fund positions that are currently grant funded, and add strategic positions and programs in the following focus areas. Public safety. Here we like to include improving roads, streets, sidewalks, a part of the Walk, Bike, Drive, and Safety Initiative, along with crime prevention and reduction strategies and increased community engagement. Additionally, we have town-wide communications, sustainability with a focus on trees, events, maintenance of existing infrastructure, and other service improvements. At this point, I'll pause for any input on what services the mayor and council might think need to be improved, modified, or eliminated.
Members of the council, any comments on the budget priorities as described by Deputy Director Jones?
Not at this point, no. Perhaps as the presentation ensues, we might come back to it.
Okay. Any input from members of the public on the budget priorities as described by Deputy Director Jones? Okay, thank you, Deputy Director. Please go ahead.
Sure, thank you. The next budget priority that we have here is community and economic development. So there is a desire to expand grant programs and to continue our farmers market dollar program. The mayor and council have reestablished the town's grant programs. And while these programs are generally a small percentage of the budget overall, the assistant programs are significant for a small municipality. The farmers market dollar program is an exception to the rule, as the annual expenditures are more than $250,000, which to date has been federally funded. So are there any community and economic development programs that the mayor and council think should be expanded, modified, or eliminated? Just trying to get some input at this point.
Council members?
Mr.
Councilmember?
Jones, Mr. Jones, you make that point about the one program being substantial for a community of our size. Could you go into a little more detail about that, please?
Yes, so the farmers market dollar program, as of now, has been funded federally with the funds. I'm sorry. Yes, it has been funded with federal funds, and at this point, I'm sorry, my mouse is going crazy. Yes, sorry about that. Yes, so the farmers market dollar program is has been funded with federal dollars at this point, and it's actually exceeded more than $250,000. So one of the priorities that we're looking at is to find ways to continue to be able to fund the farmers market dollar program once the federal dollars are finished, and that is coming very soon.
And if I could add, that's coming at the end of calendar 24. So
Yes.
halfway through the next fiscal year, it's staff belief that we will not be able to use ARPA funds because we will not meet the federal definition of obligated. It's not a contract that we have. So in order to continue it, we're going to have to find and continue it at the same level. We would have to find $125,000 approximately to have it throughout fiscal 25.
And if we wanted to continue in fiscal 26, we would need $250,000 at the same level.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Foe, you have your hand up.
I just wondered if we had any potential grant leads or anything like that from a staff level.
Not yet, sir.
Thank you.
We are looking at a variety of programs, but we haven't identified something that would fund this type of a program. There's food money, but that's more to like buy a tractor trailer full of produce as opposed to allow people to shop.
Councilmember Inyang, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes. I guess my question is around one, I think it's great to hear that obviously the funds have been used. Um, but it's obviously it's a concern in terms of the sustainability of it. Outside of I'm trying to find like the percentage of the budget that these funds are. So we obviously we know like, salaries are the most, but in terms of like what else is on this, is the like where does the farmers market dollars sort of rank in terms of sort of other expenditures, in terms of like programming? Because I know there's a lot of like business development, which I believe the last time I checked has not really been used that much. And so um I'm trying to see if there's if it's something to consider of like, hey, can we move funds towards this of things that aren't being used as much, or is this a just, step level change difference from anything else that we're doing that doesn't necessarily, it's just a drop in the bucket. Other things are just a drop in the bucket when compared to the expenditure of this.
Mr. Mayor, can I respond to that?
Please do.
Well, to your point, sir, we recently were awarded, and Mr. Chelton, correct me if I'm wrong, $75,000 from the state of Maryland to assist with our business grant programs, primarily for facade and hardscape improvements at businesses. So we still have to work out the grant agreement with the state in terms of how that'd be administered. But that's one example where we're looking for money for other programs that may be able to free up money towards the farmers market dollars. In terms of what this represents, 250,000 is 2.5 people. Just looking at the largest expense being staff and benefits. In terms of the programs overall, Mr. Chelton, can you speak to what the budget is for your various grant programs?
Certainly. So I know all of our grant programs that are whose recipients are primarily businesses come from the Economic Development Fund, and then the residential aimed grants come from the Community Development Fund. Those numbers can be found exactly in the current fiscal year 24 budget. I'm having a moment and I can't recall exactly which one's which in my mind, but I can certainly follow up with you afterwards on those exact numbers from our budget.
And but for clarity, Mr. Chelton, those are not general fund dollars.
That's correct.
So, for example, we have ARPA funds that are currently funding some of those programs, if I recall correctly.
Some of those programs, that's correct.
So we'll have to get back to you with exact information,
Okay.
Councilmember Renier.
Yeah, I think the that would be helpful. I think what I'm trying to understand is I know that the ARPA funding is creating a clouded picture of just like what's normal, or what will our budget look like in a non-ARPA funding reality, and just trying to see how does this compare to some of the other business and community development funds, and is it something where I think that answers would help at least me think about how we should sort of put this thing that people are obviously using in perspective against other budget priorities.
And for some clarity, I think if you look on page 47 of the current budget, you can see the 24 activity. There's an economic development. This is the fund balance sheet. There's an economic development fund, and you can see there how much was projected to come out of the fund. So we had economic fund transfer to the general fund. We had an economic fund to the community development fund. And then we took money out for CIP expenditures as well, because again, ARPA was housed there. So in total, I'm just adding in my head here, your about $736,000 came out of that fund, or is to come out of that fund in the current year. But to your point, if we'd have to go back to fiscal 22 or 23, I'm sorry, to see a more normal year as it relates to our programs. And I think I had it right correctly. It would be fiscal 22. We'd take a look at to see what would a normal year look like.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember
Hello?
Lingua, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I want somebody.
Mr. Kellon, I
Ye-
called on Councilmember Lingua. He had his
Mm.
hand up.
Oh,
You can go next. Councilmember Lingua, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
I thought I'd wait when it was more opportune to speak so as not to talk over anyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Following up on Councilmember Inyang's question, Mr. Jones, as a percentage of discretionary spending in the budget, what does this $250,000 come to?
So as John had mentioned, the farmers market dollars that were funded came from ARPA funds. So they're not actually coming from general fund dollars or
I
operation dollars.
understand that, sir. But does, as a portion of our discretionary spending in the budget,
Mhm.
as a percentage, what does that $250,000 come to?
Councilmember Lingua, just to clarify, by discretionary, do you mean beyond salaries, or do you want to include sort of basic supplies as well?
Beyond salaries and benefits that we're
Salaries and
paying
benefits.
the employees,
Thank you.
which is normally seen as that's indiscretionary, that has to be paid in order to employ people to keep things operational. And that is our largest item in the budget that we commit money towards, is
Right.
for the pay and benefits of the staff.
I don't have that figure right in front of me, but I can follow up with you and get that to you at the end of this meeting.
And
Not so much to me, but please get that to the entire council. Thank you.
Absolutely.
and to your point, Councilmember Lingua, if we did it to the whole budget, you're about a little over 2%, nearing 2.5%. But if you did it to about 30% of the budget, then that percentage would be much higher in terms of percent of discretionary spending. And we'll get you the exact number.
Thank you very much. And again, please, to the entire council.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Councilmember Kellon, you wish to speak to this this topic?
yes, I have a question here. What is the essence of this dollar program in farmers markets? I want to know because I was sworn in June. I don't know much of things that are going on. I want somebody to explain to me what is the essence of this dollar program in farmers markets.
Director Chelton, if Mr. Mayor, can we respond?
Please do.
Director Chelton?
I want to make sure I understand the question first. I understand. So I'll begin by describing the Farmers Market Dollars program as a grant program that the town developed in March of 2020 in response to the pandemic. We provide vouchers for the farmers market for residents who are in need and suffering from food insecurity. And so on a weekly basis, residents who are participating in the program receive funds, and at this point now we've digitalized the program so they actually receive it on a virtual credit card, kind of more like a virtual gift card, I should say, that they can use specifically only at the vendors' point of sale systems at the farmers market. So that's the farmers market dollars program in general. But your last couple of words there, something about mathematics, made me feel like I may not be answering your question in entirety. So please let me know if I haven't.
Director Chilton, what's the weekly budget per family on the farmers market dollars program? Approximately.
It would be approximately.
I think it's $25.
Oh,
It-
yes, per household. Yes.
So $25 per household for those who are suffering from food insecurity to be spent only at the vendors at the farmers market.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Callan, or do you have additional?
So this $25, where are they going to buy things with it? In the farmers market or somewhere else?
Farmers market vendors only. So, and I believe that we have determined that a very high fraction, 90 or 95%, is that correct? Is being spent on base foods, so vegetables, or things like that.
That's correct.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Of course.
And just real quick, I know Councilmember Smith, but just unused dollars, how does that work? If I only spend $20 of my 25, does that $5 get rolled to the next, or does it go back to the larger pool?
So any unused money on the gift card comes back into our system, which is returned to us,
Thank you.
and then we can use that again in the next month on others.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith?
Real quick, in terms of the agenda here, are we speaking specifically to the farmers market, to the dollars program, or anything in terms of community and economic development?
And anything under community and economic development. There's been a lot of focus on farmers market because it's a big
Right.
ticket item.
Well, I have an adjacent priority, I guess that's what we're talking about, right? Just in conversations, and you probably have had these as well, Mr. Shelton, but in conversations with Mr. Coleman from the farmers market, he had mentioned that their request for funding for their next renewal of their contract, that they are having to pay storage costs now, having to do with the transition and ownership of the storage spaces next to 250 barbecue, between the just as that sold, now it's required, they have to pay for storage in there, and it's a low four-figure dollar amount, but I think it's worthwhile in terms of funding.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can respond.
Please.
The staff team has had, including Mr. Shelton, Director Barnes, myself, we've met with Mr. Coleman. He submitted a proposal for revisions to the agreement. And right now, the town's conducting its due diligence on the reasonableness of his proposal. And once we have something, we'd be bringing that forward to the mayor and council.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. And then just to the farmers market dollar program. I think it's important we don't lose sight of why that should be a priority, right? Like, this is the difference for many families in our hometown between missing meals and not. And I grew up, I won't say I missed a lot of meals, but I know what it's like to miss one. This is a wonderful program that we have been able to provide to our citizens. And I hope we're just thinking about what our priorities really are when, we have to make those choices, that this is a program that allows people to eat. And if all of the other thing, I think that could be a standard when we're deciding whether something needs to be funded at the level that is proposed. Is it important as people eating? This is a very important program, and I hope we can continue to fund it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Additional council comments on community and economic development budget priorities? Are there any public comments on this category of budget priority? Okay, I'm not seeing any microphones light up, so let's take over again, Deputy Director, or Mr. Jones, Deputy Director Jones. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, the next budget priority that staff have identified is sustainability. So this area is called out among the various vision and commitment statements. The town is very fortunate to have a core group of residents that have been working to improve sustainability. So at this point, I'd like to open up for more discussion and just make note of any and ask a community or the mayor and council if there are any areas within sustainability that need to be further explored.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any comments or questions or thoughts from members of the council on sustainability budget priorities?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm confident staff is already considering it, but just to make sure it's voiced and in the record or whatever. Of course, anything we can do for stormwater mitigation is vital for our community.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council or questions from the council or thoughts?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
I know the green team came and sort of gave a presentation about their tree summit a couple months ago. I'm curious from the town's perspective now is when they think of sustainability, is it more so existing programs and sort of funding it, or does that include additional funding for projects or resources that have not been accounted for in past budget years?
So we are early enough in the cycle that everything is open for discussion. So, you know, new programs, enhanced programs, continuation of existing programs with additional funding, changes in existing programs, all of those are possible and have budget impacts. So,
And Mr. Mayor, may I speak?
please.
And I'm aware that the green team is looking at putting forth some requests to further endeavors as it relates to trees and that sort of thing. So I do believe the town will be receiving additional input on this particular item.
Okay, any additional council comments on sustainability budget priorities? Are there public comments on or suggestions for sustainability budget priorities? Okay, I'm not seeing any microphones open up or hands go up, so I'll hand it back over to Deputy Director Jens.
Thank you. So the last budget priority that staff have identified is funding for capital improvement projects. So there has been a focus on the town's walk, bike, and drive safety initiative, and an investment in our capital improvement programs are very crucial. The town is actively seeking grants and has shown some good progress there. CIP projects include non-project capital acquisitions as well. So at this point, I'd like to also open it up for a discussion and just start with asking, are there any categories of projects or specific projects that should be explored to be included in fiscal year 2025?
Thank you, Deputy Director. Council members? Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Yeah, I know that this was has been discussed a lot, and so I assume it's already in there, but just the realignment, reconfiguration of Natalie Place and the area around Mabel Munch Park. Yeah, I know we've talked about it a lot, but just to throw it in there.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe? You're muted.
I just wanted to keep the dialogue running about honoring the history at Plummer Park. I have no ideas in what direction this is moving. I met with Councilmember Inyang and a constituent who applied for a grant from the Loeb Fellowship through Harvard University. There's going to be events attached to that and suggestions ultimately made. But as we move forward with the design of the park, or not the design of the park, as the building of the park, I just want to keep in mind expenses for signage, and eventually potentially for art installation on the site to honor the heritage in the best possible way that we can as a community. So I don't have any specific requests in that. I know we've already allotted money in 2024 for this. Maybe this is a dialogue more for fiscal 2025. But I just wanted to keep that dialogue going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Just as a reminder, we're in fiscal 24 now, so we are talking about fiscal 25. So
I knew that as I said it. I was like, oh, you're making a mistake. I looked up and saw that. You know what I meant.
I know what you meant. Yes,
Thank you.
exactly. Councilmember Enyang, go ahead.
Thank you for clarifying because I didn't know what you meant. No, I think I definitely agree on the point about sort of Plummer Park, and when we think about FY25, and we think of a couple of things that we sort of put off, or not put off, but had to postpone. I know the town centennial was something that we've talked about in the past, and sort of how we celebrate that and the planning for that. As well as I know the 250th anniversary or birthday of America is something that I think we want to think about how we participate in that. And I personally think that Plummer Park, as well as the mansion, have an opportunity for us to sort of help tell our story as part of the larger Maryland and American story. And so thinking about ways that we can prioritize funding so that we can sort of participate in that now is one thing. And then I think the other in terms of CIP is we've talked about, obviously like the walk, bike, drive initiative. I think sidewalks and the Purple Line neighborhood improvement is obviously something that's top of mind for me, as always, of how do we, build that, into a more safe community, as well as I think investing in knowing basically measuring our progress and where we are, and sort of like an assessment. I know we've gotten some grant funding to sort of help with that, but I think if that stops short, really thinking about how do we invest in being able to create a more comprehensive plan of these are the things that are on the list, and this is how much it costs. And so that if opportunities for grants come up, we can do a quicker turn because we've already sort of invested in knowing where we currently are in the state of our sort of safety infrastructure at the moment. So we just want to earmark that for our budget priorities.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additional council ideas on funding for CIP, on CIP projects? Are there any public comments on funding for CIP? Councilmember Enyang, your hand is up. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
I know this is going to be a group effort on this, but I think working with Park and Planning Commission regarding the placement and building of a sidewalk along that north stretch of Longfellow Street, perhaps we can look at a combined application on the grant program that was brought up by Dan Barron that the federal government is offering.
Okay. Thank you.
It doesn't have to be directly out of our CIP, but something along the way to see if we can identify funding there, of which there's probably going to be a portion that's going to come from us. And that portion might be something that's earmarked in the CIP portion of the budget.
That I imagine that's how the money would flow, is that grant would be, if we got that grant, it would be identified as a source of funding for the projects.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
any additional input from members of the council or members of the public on CIP funding budget priorities?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I want to make sure I clarify that. I got a stinking feeling I might have gotten my streets confused. I might have said Longfellow when I meant Oglethorpe.
You did say Longfellow, and I was a little bit confused, but I was going to go dig out a map after the meeting and look
No,
at it again.
it's Oglethorpe. There is a sidewalk along the north side of Longfellow. What I meant was Oglethorpe. My
Okay.
apologies.
No problem. Okay, I think I've given everybody an opportunity, so I'll hand it back over to Deputy Director Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, members of the council, for your contributions. As we put together the budget, we will definitely take all of what you have said into consideration. The next portion of the presentation covers the budget guidelines for fiscal year 2025. So staff utilizes the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, Distinguished Budget Presentation Award guidelines. Just a brief summary of the GFOA. It established the Distinguished Budget Presentation Awards program in 1984 to encourage and assist state and local governments to prepare budget documents of the very highest quality and reflect both the guidelines established by the National Advisory Council on State and Local Budgeting and the GFOA's best practices on budgeting, and then to recognize individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. So the Finance and Budget Committee can proudly state that we have been recipients of the award for the last 4 years. Some of the main criteria that the GFOA highlights for the Distinguished Budget Award guidelines are the financial structure, policy, and process. For this criteria, the point of emphasis is describing the process for preparing, reviewing, and adopting the budget for the coming fiscal year. Financial summaries, this criteria emphasizes an accurate presentation of the revenues, expenditure, and other financing sources. Capital and debt, the emphasis here is presenting the budget and capital expenditures, whether authorized in the operating budget or a separate capital budget. For department information, the emphasis here is a summary of personnel or position counts for prior, current, and budgeted years, as well as describing the activities, services, or functions carried out by each unit. And last, we have the document-wide criteria. Here, the emphasis is on including statistical and supplemental data that describe organizations, its community, and the population. So as we put together the budget, again, staff will utilize the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award guidelines. So the next part of the presentation, we will cover some of the challenges or difficulties that staff and the Budget Committee have identified in funding the priorities that we discussed earlier in the presentation. So some of the challenges that staff have identified for the fiscal year 2025 budget is first funding the budget priorities. As we covered earlier in the presentation, delivery of enhanced services to town residents, community and economic development, sustainability, and funding for CIP. Funding for all of these priorities is a challenge that staff face as we are looking at putting together the budget. Additionally, we have rising costs in workers' compensation. We mentioned earlier that we have the end of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds. We do expect an increase in costs of goods and services. And lastly, economic uncertainty. So as with all budgets, it is about finding balance of the numbers, and then competing priorities. As revenue net expenditures decline, which is our go-to source for CIP, funding will continue to become more difficult. ARPA funding, again, will be ending, and we have costs rising as well. So these are the budget challenges that staff have identified and are highlighting as we put together the budget. Next portion of the presentation covers some budget opportunities. So the opportunities when examining how we do business, where revenue may be increased, costs contained, and expectations balanced. As we work to find the priorities, we have identified some budget opportunities. So one of the first budget opportunities that we have is the real property tax rate. And we have determined that it may be necessary to adjust the tax rate higher to fund operations and capital improvement. Again, with rising costs and expectations, adjusting the real property tax rate, it may be necessary. Another budget opportunities that staff have identified are additional programs. In pursuit of innovative revenue streams that align with community values, we are considering the introduction of a residential zone automated enforcement program. This initiative, which falls under our Walk Bike Drive Safety Initiative, adds speed cameras to promote traffic safety and fund public safety initiatives. Additionally, staff are analyzing opportunities to increase licensing fees to offset the increased expenses of the town's licensing program. Another opportunity staff have identified are third-party solutions. So in order to optimize our resource allocation, we are exploring if certain services may be more effectively provided by a third party. This approach will allow us to potentially achieve some cost savings through competitive bidding and ensure that the town can meet the growing demand of its residents. And lastly, we have analyzing positions and duties. So we have recognized that human resources are our greatest asset. So we are conducting a review of staffing to ensure we are being as efficient and effective as possible. So this internal review is focused on finding opportunities to minimize the need for growing the staff team. And that concludes the budget opportunities that staff have identified. If there are any questions from Mayor and Council.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, just on the third party solution, the last two really, and analyzing positions and duties. I know we all are thankful for the staff. I think we all know that we have the best town staff of any municipality that I can think of. So I just hope that as we're thinking about that, we're not considering third party solutions that would eliminate existing staff positions, so that we can keep hold of everyone we've got. And then just to the real property tax portion, I've spoken about this before, but like I know nobody likes to hear talk about raising taxes. Our property taxes have been static for at least a decade. I'm sure someone on the council with more tenure than me can tell me how long exactly. But we all, not long ago talked about how big of a priority pedestrian and bike safety is for us, and all agreed that we should look at thinking big with sort of things that'll cost, sorry, my brain's not working great tonight, things that'll cost a fair amount of money. So considering that, and the fact that that is a concern that our community, our residents have expressed now, there is political will to do something about our property tax rate now. If we don't do it now, it's already been at least a decade. I'm not sure when we'll have the political will to do that again. So I just hope my fellow members of the council keep that in mind as we consider the real property tax rate and the fact that it would likely be fairly unpopular in some corners of the town for us to do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Mr. Town Manager, can you wait for after Mr. Inyang, or you want to respond directly to Councilmember Smith?
It's your call, but it's in reference to the comments by Councilmember Smith.
Are you willing to yield, Councilmember Inyang, to Town Manager? Let him respond.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to address the third-party solutions and to make sure that the community is clear, the mayor and council hear it clearly, the staff team hear it clearly. We're not suggesting eliminating any existing positions. What we're suggesting is that as we analyze growing the organization, we may be able to minimize taking on new positions if we use some third party for some duty. But we're not looking for any sort of a reduction in force.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilman Brendan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I sort of share the message that I think this budget cycle is sort of key, that hopefully we can meet the moment with the proper level of engagement to sort of set us up for success over the next few years, knowing that it may be we may be asked to do things that we haven't in a while. Like, I believe the real property tax rate hasn't been updated or changed in 14 years or so. And so that's we were a lot different, 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago than we are now in terms of like our makeup, our size, and then as well as the programs and expectations that we have. And so I think knowing that we have inflationary pressures, that I think is worth sort of exploring what that looks like. One quick thing that I had, and it's more so in terms of like some of the challenges. I know, Town Manager, you've explained this to me before about the CSX bridge that sort of connects the Riverdale Park Station to the rest of the town. I know we are paying for it in a certain way. Without getting bogged down into the specifics of it, I do wonder if that's something that maybe the town or maybe even the mayor and council can think about as a priority for ourselves to sort of like reinvestigate or look into. Because the way I read it on the budget book now, it reads like the town is capped in terms of the accessible, like the accessible taxes until we sort of pay this off. And so I'm not sure if I have the right read on that, but it seems like an opportunity of like, a worthwhile, conversation to sort of like kick back up with the county. But I want to know if that's a worthwhile endeavor for the council to sort of look into or not.
There's certainly a lot of money that flows each year into paying off our portion of the cost of the bridge. The county did invest quite a bit of money into the bridge initially, in one form or another. The developer invested a good amount of money, and the town invested a good amount of money. And we have the TIF zone that covers much of Riverdale Park Station that largely goes to pay off the bridge loan. We are getting revenue out of it at this time, but largely it's for that. Mr. Town Manager, any important points I've missed?
No, just that, the amount. So it's about $386,000 a year that is paid on debt service for the bridge.
Okay. Any additional council comments or questions on the budget opportunities? Are there any public questions or comments on budget opportunities? Okay, back to you, Deputy Director Jones.
Thank you. And actually, yeah, that concludes the presentation. So if there aren't any other further questions or comments, yeah, that would be the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any overarching questions, comments, thoughts, things that you thought of after the focus discussions? Anything, members of the council? Go ahead.
I would just say that one, I appreciate the presentation and starting this process early of trying to get ideas and feedback. I know as we talk about, trying to brace ourselves for, what the possibility would be for sort of a change in the tax rate. I think it would also be, important for the town to look at, are there any levers at all in terms of, you know, like cutting costs? Probably not in terms of headcount, but if there are procedural things, if it's like investment, if it's in some of the, I know we've talked in the past about police communications as like a big part of the budget. I think it'd be a worthwhile conversation to sort of at least have the numbers so that down the road, we'll be sort of better informed to have those conversations. And, nothing isn't final, but I think it's just, my take is the budget is to the point where it's pretty lean. There's it was a 52.75, percent person head count. And so there aren't large pockets of money just laying around. And so I think any cut would be material. And so just what options are potentially there, I think would be helpful for the council to make an informed decision if we need to down the road.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additional council overarching comments, or can we go ahead and see if there's any public comments? I'm gonna go to the public comments now. Any public comments? Okay, thank you, Deputy Director. Appreciate the presentation. It was a slightly unusual format compared to the one we often have, but I think it was good. Got some good discussion in there and had some ideas. So,
Absolutely. Thank you.
of course. Okay, next item on the agenda is my report, the mayor's report. I hope that everyone had happy holidays, enjoyed their holidays. I enjoyed many things about my holidays, a little bit low key compared to some years, but it was good. I really enjoyed the holiday kickoff that town staff put together in the historic town center. Was able to do a bunch of shopping there, enjoyed talking to people, meeting people, and a good start to the holidays. And then I traveled out of town, spent the holidays in a rainy and warm Maine. I was expecting some snow up there maybe, but they didn't get their snow until a few days ago, maybe yesterday. They got 8 inches of heavy, wet snow. And so they were actually not so happy. I'm glad I wasn't there for that. A lot of what was sort of putting a damper on my holiday celebrations was continuing response and sadness about the tragedy that happened in November. That tragedy continues on for the family members. It continues on for the friends and neighbors of the children who were killed. And it certainly is continuing and is something I constantly think about in my life. Many members of the community have reached out to me reporting near misses or dangerous behaviors or places that are need to have some attention, need to be made safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. And I think that this is the first legislative meeting we've had since we learned that the town had received a grant, a large grant from Department of Transportation for a Safe Streets and Roads for All program. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact number. I didn't go to look that up, but my memory is that it's several $100,000, maybe close to $1 million. And that will be to do a survey of the town, full survey of the town, identify unsafe locations and possible projects. And with that report in hand, then we will be able to go back to the program and request funding for construction to fix those safety issues. And just as an example, the town of Mount Rainier, city of Mount Rainier, did this exact process. They had a survey grant program, and then this year they received $9 million in construction funding to address safety issues in their community. All members of the council should have received an email, a letter responding to our letter requesting quick and thorough resolution of lack of crossing guards in the schools. And there's a press release put out by the county executive's office last Friday. And it sounds like they are devoting a lot of resources to addressing the issue short term by diverting police officers into crossing guard duty as needed, and long term in aggressively seeking to hire people for those jobs to fill the many empty positions across the county. If you have not thoroughly read that letter, I recommend it. There's a lot of good information in it. We have started exploring a walk, bike, drive citizens advisory committee. Don't remember the exact name. This was discussed in December, and we are still seeking input and interest from members of the community. We have received that from quite a few people, and so keep the interest coming. I think we're going to wait until we can get a town crier out before finalizing plans on that, but it's looking like we do have enough interest in that. And then continuing on in that same theme, I'll mention that there is a walk, bike, drive community conversation on January 20th, starting at 9:30 a.m. It'll be a virtual meeting, as our winter events are, and I hope to see a lot of people there. Hopefully all of those who reached out to me about near misses and dangerous behaviors can come and talk to us about that and learn about what the town has been working on. And you know, just mention that Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that we received is we applied for back in June. So we've been anticipating that we needed this, been trying to find the funding for it, and learned in December that we had received that funding. Switching topics, the respiratory illness situation is looking not so great right now. It's COVID, flu, RSV, the so-called tridemic. It's difficult to track each of them separately at this time. There's just a few statistics. One of them is wastewater, and one of them is so-called influenza-like illness, the fraction of people who are showing up to the doctor reporting things that act like flu, so fever, sneezing, coughing, sore throat, those sorts of symptoms. All those numbers are pretty high, both in DC and Delaware and New Jersey. They seem to be increasing still. New Jersey had a particularly bad increase from last week, and we're sort of in the middle of all of those. And so we can expect it to go up. Maryland's numbers were not great, but nevertheless, there's a lot of respiratory illness going around, and buckle in. And I'll just mention that if you are in need of COVID tests, that there's a federal program that reopened in December, and you can apply online, request online, and receive, I believe it's 4 tests, which is not very many per family for free. Just apply online and get it. Continuing on in the bad news, I don't know how many of you remember early 2020. I was certainly watching what was going on in Europe, which was hit before us. And the same thing seems to be happening with the COVID JN1 variant right now. So I was reading that late last week in Rome, there were 1,100 ambulances parked outside of hospitals waiting for beds to open up. And similarly bad situations elsewhere in Europe. So Italy is bad, France is bad, UK is having issues also. And so this may be what we see in a few weeks. We may see that that JN1 is a problem and that it will be hitting us hard. So please be safe. Please, if you do develop symptoms, then try to isolate, keep yourself away from other members of your family. Do not go to work, and seek medical care. The antivirals are very effective, but they're only effective for the first 3, 4, 5 days. You need to get started on those 3, 4, 5 days into the illness, or they're not so effective. The The COVID wastewater data, just to dig in a little bit on that. There's a little bit of controversy on that. Different epidemiologists are interpreting it differently, but some people are interpreting this as having the second highest infection rate during the pandemic, not on a day-by-day basis, but just in terms of peak of a wave. So second only to the Omicron, Delta Omicron sort of 1-2 punch that we saw at the end of 21, beginning of 22, as I remember it correctly. And the estimate is up to 2 million infections nationwide per day. So as I said, be careful. If you still have your N95 masks the town distributed, then think about wearing them if you're in a crowded or poorly ventilated place, and please take care. Okay, moving on to the happy side of the mayor's report. We got some other good news in December, which is that, at least for the moment, the FBI headquarters will be relocating in Greenbelt. And I think that this is going to be quite a boost in demand for office space in our Discovery District properties. And so I think we can cross our fingers if the project comes through, which will probably take many years to build, but at some point in the future that we will see very high occupancy, very high rents being paid in that location. And that will help out our tax benefits, tax revenues at that time. It may be several years before this works through the process, but knock on wood for that. There was a meeting, sorry, I can't remember when it was. I think it was in December also, a presentation on the new bridge, Riverdale Road Bridge over the Anacostia. The current design is a design that an engineer can love, but that most people who have aesthetic sense find a bit boring at best. And so I plan to be reaching out. The town staff will be reaching out. We're looking for possible ways to decorate it to make it look better. I think the engineering design is relatively fixed at this time, but we'll be reaching out to those of you with artistic skills and hope that you can make some suggestions that we can pass on to the state agency that will be constructing that bridge. And last but not least, I have to wish a happy birthday this month. And it's a big birthday. It's 20 years. And the 20-year birthday is of the mixed-use town center zone. It became effective in January of 2004, 20 years ago. And we've been building on top of it, making great progress in revitalizing our town center. It's the bedrock on which Riverdale Park Station is built. And I was very excited when I was going to look something up in the MUTC book and noticed the front page that it had turned 20. So happy birthday to MUTC. And with that, I will conclude my report. Thank you. Moving on the agenda, next item on the agenda is the town manager's report. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a decent list this evening. Just following up on the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee, I understand that we have, I think, 10 people who have responded, and we have not done any direct outreach yet to the College Park Academy and Riverdale Elementary School, but we will do that as well to see interest in those positions. On COVID, Mr. Mayor, if I can just add that we have a respectful mask policy for town employees, but things can still happen. And as I've shared with the mayor last week, we actually had 3 staff members who were out with COVID. On the Safe Streets for All grant, the staff team has been having meetings to discuss our next steps. That's the grant the mayor spoke of. We do have a meeting set up with the state of Maryland, their federal grants folks for the first week of February. It will likely take us a number of months before we have a grant agreement with the federal government. But we're working to move things along as quickly as possible. The Town Seal Design Committee will meet tomorrow, and that's at 7 p.m. and that's a virtual meeting. The just a reminder: Maryland General Assembly starts on January 10th, and MML Opening Day Legislative Reception is at 6 p.m. at Governor Calvert House. Town Hall and DPW operations will be closed on Monday, January 15th, in observance of Martin Luther King Day. There will be no disruption to trash or yard waste collection on that day. So we do have 2 more Mondays left for Christmas tree collection, and that's the 15th and the 22nd. The Ethics Commission will meet on Wednesday, the 17th at 7:30 p.m., and that's via Zoom. The next community conversation, as the mayor said, is January 20th, 9:30 on that Saturday morning. That's a virtual meeting on the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative. We're also rolling out the use of constant contact. That begins tomorrow. And we have a communication plan where we will be having this emailed platform used every Tuesday. And if anyone has questions, Director Barnes can fill us in on that. We have a solicitation on the street for park construction, much like we've done with our on-call engineers. We have a number of park projects, and this is a new approach, and but we'll be coming to the council at the January work session. That's the plan, to see what type of response we get. But we're looking for unit cost for certain types of construction. The Comcast cable franchise agreement is on the agenda for the January work session, and we'll have Sue Ellen Ferguson here that evening to review that with the council. The last thing I have is that staff are working on putting together a Valentine's Day luncheon. This year, there was not a town-sponsored holiday senior luncheon, and we've been looking at ways to have outreach to Crescent Cities at other times of the year, and staff came up with the idea of a Valentine's Day luncheon. So we're working on that. We'll have more details at the end of the month. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any questions from members of the council? Any questions from members of the public? Hearing none, let's move on to the monthly finance report.
Thank you. So tonight's finance reports are in the same format that they've been in the past. We have a revenue and expenditure comparison for the months of October, November, December with a year-to-date total. So for the month of December, revenue totaled $516,574. Expenditures totaled $665,674. And we had a net revenue expenditures of negative $149,100. The year-to-date at this point for fiscal year 2024, we have a revenue total of $6,261,283. Expenditures total $4,212,581, and we have a net total there of $2,048,702. So if we look in the month of December, revenue is higher in fiscal year 2024 than it's been in fiscal year 2023 and 2022. The reason for that is that we received the November local taxes from the state of Maryland, and it's been higher than in years past. Typically, the majority of that has come in the months of September and October, but we actually received some of that revenue in the month of November. So I'm sorry, in the month of December. So we have a total there that's higher than fiscal year 2023 and 2022. Additionally, in December, the expenditures, if you notice, are a little bit lower than they've been in the years of fiscal year 2023 and 2022. For December 2023 and 2022, we actually had 3 payrolls in the month of December for 2023 and 2022. So our expenditure salary amount is higher for those months than it's been in the current fiscal year. And again, just to clarify, we do have these negative net amounts for the month of December, which is expected. As I've mentioned in previous finance reports, the majority of our revenue comes in the months of September, October, and November. If you notice, in October, we received a very large portion of our revenue, $3,422,000, and that carries forward throughout the year. So for the year to date, we look and we compare for the month of for fiscal year 2024 year to date, our total is at $2,048,000. We are up a bit from fiscal year 2023. That total is $1,949,000. And then fiscal year 2022, we were actually up a little bit higher than where we are in the current fiscal year. We had a net of $2,136,000. One thing I'd like to note, fiscal year 2022 was a year that we had we had a fairly large revenue net expenditure, which wasn't something that we've seen consistently in other years. Currently for revenue, we are at 65% of what we had budgeted, with roughly 6 months left of revenue and 8 months left of our speed camera revenue. Again, our speed camera revenue, we collect that 2 months later. So 6 months into the year, we still have 8 months left of speed camera revenue to collect. Additionally, as far as the TIF surplus that flows back to the town, we do expect to receive that. And we typically add that back at the end of the fiscal year. So the expectations at this point is that the revenue net expenditures will not be as robust as it's been in the years past. I mentioned that in my previous presentation. We typically use revenue net expenditure to fund CIP projects, but we are closely monitoring these numbers moving forward. Right now, we are at just 44% of our budgeted expenditures. So again, the town is closely monitoring these numbers, but we do expect to meet our budget, and we don't foresee any issues with that. But again, we are monitoring these numbers closely because of the revenue net expenditures, which we use to fund. So yes, that concludes the finance reports for December fiscal year 2024. And if there are any questions or comments, I would be happy to answer.
Members of the council, any questions or comments on the finance report? Hearing none, Councilmember Lingua, do you have a question, or do you want to make a motion to adopt the finance report subject to audit?
Motion to adopt the finance report subject to audit.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe to adopt the monthly finance report subject to audit. Any discussion of this motion? Any public comments? I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia still not here, Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is correspondence summary. If you could bring it up just so that members of the public can see that. All of this is in your packets and your email. So unless there is any question that would lead to a motion, then this listing is all we should be discussing here. I will just briefly say that the January 4th message from Congressman Ivey's office was about the derailment in Hyattsville that spilled plastic and what the status of the cleanup was, which sounds like it's pretty good, if not perfect. And then the letter on the crossing guard update I discussed in my report earlier. Okay, no one has any motions to make regarding this, then let's move on to the fire department report. So again, this was distributed prior to the meeting. You can just read it yourself. 2 successful events, visit to classrooms at Riverdale Elementary with Santa Claus on Friday, December 22nd. Santa run through town on December 23rd. It's funny that a GPS Santa will be tracked by GPS next year. And then the President Lamphere says that department will work with the county on apparatus and facility issues, and also with town staff. So that's all I know is the written report. Any questions or discussion of this report before we move on? Seeing none, we have gotten to the council committee and ward reports, and we'll start with Council Member Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to see everybody again. Happy New Year. Happy to hear about all the exciting programs and services we're considering in the upcoming budget cycle, particularly, of course, the Walk, Bike, Drive initiative. I love the fact that what was presented to us for that the advisory committee is a list of some very specific qualifications for individual seats on the committee, and I'm assuming probably going to end up turning people away that are qualified, just because we have such a great community, and everyone has this expertise, which we're lucky to have within the community, hasn't hesitated to volunteer, offer their services, and advice to the town. So really excited about that. In terms of the crossing guards, I know the crossing guard that has been at Hyattsville Elementary, where my son goes due to some quirk of public school boundaries, is great. She hasn't been there the past couple weeks, and the replacement person they've sent hasn't been so great. So I hope that we can continue to pressure the county to hire fully qualified crossing guards, trained crossing guards, as it appears not all of the fill-in folks are. We know how things can go with the county sometimes in a press release saying that we are prioritizing hiring these positions that have been open and funded for a while and not filled. That's going to need some follow-up attention from us as a community. And I'm sure my colleagues here on the committee or on the council and the staff will continue to monitor that and provide updates. I think we did have a meeting in December after we found out that the Washington Commanders visited Riverdale Park and took a look around and decided this is where they want to be. Glad to have them. Glad to have a team with an ownership worth welcoming to our community moving in. So that's going to be exciting. That, I think, combined with the FBI headquarters coming to Greenbelt that was mentioned previously, and the substantial development that's still coming in our town in wards 1 and 4, I believe, I know, and then more so as we get closer to Purple Line being operational, all that to say, there's a lot of people coming here. A lot of the development that's happening is going to be or is being conceptualized as public transit oriented. And then we have, of course, I think with the commanders coming and all the folks that the mayor mentioned coming into the Discovery District, we're also going to be an area that takes commuters in during the day, right? More, I mean, I know we are now already, but even more so. All that to say, the current scheduled volume for the MARC train at Riverdale Park Town Center is not going to be sustainable. I've harped on this a lot. I'm going to harp on it again. We know that CSX will not allow us to add more trains to the tracks running through the day, but there are already MARC trains that run a limited service schedule that skip Riverdale Park and go straight to College Park. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes each way added to the schedule to make that a reality, and I think it's going to be essential as we continue to grow as a town. And I know staff and members of the council have been in touch with our Annapolis delegation. I know Nicole Williams, Assemblymember Williams, has been particularly helpful. So hopefully we can get an update on that soon. But it's exciting that we're growing, but we need things like our public transit infrastructure to grow with us. And this is one, I think, easy thing that could be done. Again, just adding a couple minutes on the schedule each way that would have a disproportional effect on our community in a good way, of course. I think that is everything I have for tonight. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Thank you for reminding me about the commander's move of their headquarters to Riverdale Park. It's great news indeed. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Good evening, everybody. Before I forget, I think it's a perfect opportunity talking about the Washington Commanders coming to Riverdale Park to rejoin dialogues with College Park to make sure that we can make River Road pedestrian safe with bike lanes that match River Tech Court. I get excited as we talk about the Safe Streets grant because I believe, like, every time I drive down River Tech, these newly constructed roads that are wide with pedestrian safety at the forefront, I recognize that retrofitting our existing roadways is more difficult than what that is. But you see that in the beauty that it provides and the safety that it provides in front of a school in our community. And it excites me about this Safe Streets grant that staff has procured. And again, I want to celebrate the work and also just get ready to dig in, because this is what I am going to be answering to constituents with, right? What are we doing? This Safe Streets grant. We're gonna have to put our nose to the grindstone. We're gonna have to work hard. And I really believe that we can make, if you anything even remotely close to what Mount Rainier got. And I know that's a talking point that we utilize, and the nothing like that is guaranteed. But the anything even in that ballpark, in that world, allows us to make fundamental changes that make our constituents and our residents more safe. And that's where we need to continue to have this dialogue. Be COVID aware, people. It is an aggressive variety. I think it's JN.1 is that the newest variety that is going around. Celebrated Christmas up in Pittsburgh with my family. Mr. Town Manager at Highland Park, right near the zoo. If you're familiar, that's where my brother is. North Hills the next day. Driving home, my father-in-law gets exhausted, sleeps about 24 straight hours. My mom tests positive. My father-in-law tests positive. 10 of the 17 members of the party that were attending this end up being positive. Every single one of them with an updated vaccine. When sharing this information with Mr. Mayor, he said that the fact that you had no major medical issues had in some impact or effect was due to our vaccination status really made me proud as a family. We had two members of our family in their upper 70s with comorbidities everywhere that didn't suffer, right? And I am grateful for that. But please be COVID aware. Please be upper respiratory aware. You should see our schools. Masking is coming back big time as I returned today. We just need to take steps to ensure that we are safe. I previously mentioned, and I don't want to steal the thunder of Councilmember Inyang, but we had a meeting at Starbucks in Riverdale Park Station with Ward 4 resident Betsy Otto, who is a Harvard fellow, who's applied for a grant for us to create a discussion. And if I'm butchering any of this, I apologize. But to create a discussion amongst community members and other Loeb fellows to come to this community and discuss the potential for art as it exists at Plummer Park, and get yourself in a dialogue with Councilmember Inyang, Betsy Otto, about their views for this space, his views for the upcoming bicentennial or centennial 250 years of Maryland. And you'll be excited because it talks about developing an object permanence in our community that tells a story of struggle and survival and thriving. And the more I become aware of that story, the more I am convinced that this needs to be celebrated on a level that is unique to this area, to this state. And seeing that entities like the Loeb Fellowship and Harvard are somewhat interested in what we have to do and we're moving forward is really, really exciting, because I just think there's an element of beauty in this dialogue and the history that we can help present. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we live in Riverdale Park, and Capital Weather Gang is telling me that we're expecting 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rain potentially tomorrow evening, wind gusts into the 50s. As is always, we need to be weather aware. We are approaching, after tomorrow's storm, 10 inches of rain in the winter, when we average 8.89 from December through February. Our ground is wet. Our waterways are going to be overflowing, and we need to be aware. If we have dealt with flooding issues in the past, we need to communicate with our neighbors as well, who may have experienced some issues in the path, because we have rainstorm on top of rainstorm, and that is never a good thing in this community. So please be weather aware, and please spread the word. Everybody needs to be paying attention tomorrow. With that, Mr. Mayor, I yield.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe, and particularly on the reminder about the weather tomorrow. I thought it was a couple of days away, but it is just tomorrow.
and you know what, Mr. Mayor, I have it written down and I completely forgot to say it. This rain makes me think to a Hyattsville Wire post I saw about the potential acquisition of the property at 6601 Baltimore Avenue, and our community's commitment to doing something with that floodwater. I saw somewhere, I think it was on Instagram or one of the social medias, that singular post had support in the 4s and 500s. And I saw that, and I just thought, this is a beautiful issue that this staff, this mayor, and this council has dialogued about. And we have an opportunity. I know, Mr. Mayor, I know, Councilmember Lengua, you participated in these dialogues about Riverdale Park Station first, and the loss of trees and the loss of nature in that space. And seeing these increasing winter rainstorms, it makes me again want to say how on point staff, the mayor, and town council has been in pushing for the acquisition of this property and the return of 6 acres of concrete into permeable surfaces that will allow water to return to aquifers the appropriate way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. We'll discuss the Municipal Center 6601 Baltimore Municipal Center project later in the meeting. So have a little news update there. Okay, moving along, Councilmember Lengua, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So a couple points. Perhaps someone under new business wants to make a motion for the mayor and council to direct staff to send a thank you card to Ken Ullman for helping landing the headquarters office for the Washington Commanders. On another note, regarding Riverdale Park Station, while I was involved with many peripheral discussions regarding Riverdale Park Station, I would say the real meat and potatoes work on that project is to the credit of the Mixed Use Town Center Committee. In particular, Ward 1 council member at the time, Jonathan Debler, and at the time, our Ward 2 council member, at that time, Alan K. Thompson, now mayor. There were ever two folks who were able to steer and navigate what the Washington Post editorial staff called epic negotiations towards a development project. I would give a fair amount of that credit to those two gentlemen.
Thank you, Councilmember. Appreciate that.
You're quite welcome, sir. During the holidays, as the mayor was away and I was tasked to be acting mayor, I stopped by Pizza Oven in the East Pines neighborhood of Riverdale on Saturday, December 30th. It was their next to last day of business. And as acting mayor on behalf of the town of Riverdale Park and its residents served for 66 years, I expressed to owner Brian Boilio congratulations and appreciation for operating his business. And as a token of that recognition and appreciation, I gave him the town lapel pin from my jacket, pinning it personally on his shirt's collar. He was touched by the gesture. So much so, he gave me, especially so, 2 shiny pennies from the 1950s as part of my change from the order I made. He said, "I've been saving these for the right occasion." And I would have to say that a small cheese pizza never tasted better. I know staff gets a little perturbed when I'm doling out pins like this. My apologies, but you've seen the look on him when he received it. I think it could be well understood. And with that, I will conclude my ward report.
Thank you, Councilman Lingua. That brings us to Councilmember Enyang, Ward 4.
Thank you. I share a lot of that's sort of already been shared, and not to extend this meeting any longer. Definitely excited about the Commanders joining Riverdale Park Station in the Discovery District, and I think the Terrapin Development Corporation have reached out and basically said that they look forward to thinking about working with the town to think about programming to sort of meet some of the things we've talked about a few months ago when they came by, of how do we make sure the Discovery District is not just I think what the mayor called it, a soulless office park. And so I think they've already reached out and said they're thinking about the potential programming for the spring, and I think we can try to find an opportunity that makes sense, whether it's an existing event or creating something new that we can sort of activate some of the businesses in that area. And I'm sure the Commanders will probably be a part of that as well. And so opportunities like that definitely are things I look forward to moving forward. I think to Councilmember Foe's comments about the that the Plummer Park in terms of like the opportunities there. I think there is, you know, the town, uh, the Loeb Fellowship and Betsy, which he's sort of working on. I think there's an opportunity for the town to get some of the biggest and brightest minds who are thinking about these types of spaces all across the country to come together and sort of help us out for little or very little cost. And I think there's a unique opportunity for the town to play a leadership role in the surrounding communities, about what does it mean about our history as we think about some of these larger milestones, like I've mentioned in the past, earlier this meeting, that are coming up. How do we think about it? How do we celebrate it? How do we see opportunities to, create active design, and functional use of particular areas? I think I see Plummer Park, and I know there's designs that have already been, worked on, and I kind of equate that to, you know, architectural plans for a house. But I think there's an opportunity for the town, working with the community, to think about, what the interior design could be, in terms of how we use this to be, functional spaces that the community can sort of rally around, and future generations can look towards to tell our unique story, right? And the story of so many who have lived and died and suffered on our lands. And then I would just say, I'm definitely grateful for the birthday for Mutzi. 20 years in some ways seems like it's a long time ago, and then in some ways it's relatively short in the sort of history of the town. But it's clear to see the impact of it. As a person who celebrates a birthday this weekend, this week I think about 20, maybe 20 is not old anymore, right? It's the 20s a new 10. So that's perfectly fine. But as I mentioned, the budget conversations, I have been thinking a lot about the CSX bridge, and I know personally I'll be looking to do some homework on just sort of, I wasn't around 10 to 12 years ago, and Mr. Mayor, I'll probably reach out to you and appreciate you sort of helping to lead the effort on getting this place created. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a place where I'm living right now. But, as we think about the budget and every $100,000 of the budget is, what is it, like I think 1 cent on the tax rate increase. Like, these numbers become really tangible for me, and the idea of like $350,000 plus a year that the town is sort of doing. I gotta believe there's got to be an opportunity to reevaluate, reassess, see what that might look like. And even if there isn't, I think it's worthwhile sort of like engaging other parties, because I can't imagine that 10 years ago, the vision of what this place is right now and where it could be, probably could have been seen. Right? I think it probably overperformed its expectations, and so I'll be looking into that as my personal homework that I'll be doing for the next few days or so. And with that, I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Councilmember Yang. Councilmember Mejia is not here. Councilmember Calon, Ward 6.
Good evening to all of you. Happy New Year. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy when they explained to me about dollar program at the farmers market. Make me happy, because that's a good thing. Helping the needy, that's very important. And number 2, happiness is the commanders that are coming to our area. That's my team. I'm happy for them. I hope they will bring a progress in our area. So I don't have much to say, but I think the mayor and the town manager, they are doing perfect things in our community. I'm happy for all of you. The mayor and councils and town manager and staffs, kudos to you all. This is Council Member Calon. I'm happy for your job. Well done. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Councilmember Callan. That brings us to the end of council committee and ward reports. Let's move on to public comments on non-agenda items and consent agenda items. Are there any public comments? Not seeing any microphones turn on, so let's move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, which are all minutes. Just a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
So by our rules, this is neither discussed nor debated, simply straight to a roll call vote. So I will do that. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. That brings us to legislative action items. Item number 1, a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a 1-year contract extension for Motier Services, Inc. for town lawn mowing and maintenance services. Can we have a brief presentation and then the motion?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Staff is seeking your authorization for the town manager to sign a 1-year extension of the agreement with Motier Services for lawn mowing and maintenance services of both town-owned sites and locations along East-West Highway in town for an amount not to exceed $94,000. This amount includes a small contingency, about $2,300 for unscheduled service requests. The extension will end in March 2025. The contractor is requesting $91,680 for services under the extended agreement, and that's up from $78,139, an increase of 17%. The FY 2024 budget for lawn mowing services is $94,000. If refunded at this amount in fiscal year 25, it will cover the full cost of the extension, which services provided from April to November. Staff will solicit new proposals and select a contractor by January of 2025. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Unless there are questions that will affect your motion, I would appreciate a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the 1-year contract extension for Motier Services for town lawn mowing and maintenance services.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Are there council questions or discussion of the motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
Just a comment. It's been my experience that since bringing Motier on board, that the town has looked better concerning its lawn care. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Any additional council discussion of the motion? Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is legislative action item 2, motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of 3 police vehicles through Hertrick Fleet Services, Inc. and upfit the vehicles through Frontline Mobile Tech. If we could have a combined presentation on items 2 and 3, which are both vehicle purchases, might make it a little bit faster. So, Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, Acting Chief Turner will walk the mayor and council through this opportunity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The action request is staff requests the mayor and council to authorize the town manager to approve the acquisition of 3 vehicles as contemplated in the approved FY 2024 budget, and separately approve the acquisition of a 4th vehicle as both the vehicle and funding are available. As previously discussed with the mayor and council, supply chain issues have made the acquisition of police vehicles difficult. To add this dynamic, the police department has been informed that Ford will not be producing a 2024 version of the Ford Interceptor, Interceptor. And this will decrease the availability of police package vehicles in FY25. In September, staff located comparable vehicles to acquire in place of the vehicles ordered in July of 2022. The vehicles available now for acquisition are from July 2022 order. Because of this, one additional vehicle is available for acquisition if authorized by the mayor and council. The police department recommends authorizing this additional purchase as all vehicles will be purchased from Hertrick Fleet riding on a state bid contract. The outfitting will be from Frontline Mobile Tech, which is a bid agreement with Howard County. And the police department recommends the town ride on the Howard County bid. The funding for this purchase is available in FY 2024 CIP, vehicle replacement for police. Finance Deputy Director Jones has advised that there are sufficient funds available in the CIP to acquire the fourth vehicle. If that vehicle is authorized and acquired at this time, any request for vehicles in FY 2025 will be reduced by one. And if there's any questions, I can answer those.
Thank you, Acting Chief Turner. Members of the council, do you have any questions that are going to impact whether you can make a motion under item 2 for the 3 police vehicles? Please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, it'd be nice to have a motion to approve. Councilmember Lingua.
So moved.
Okay, Councilmember Lingua has made a motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of 3 police vehicles through Hertrick Fleet Services and outfit the vehicles through Frontline Mobile Tech. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Calon. Is there council discussion of the motion?
When could we expect delivery?
So those vehicles are available now.
Okay.
Does that mean they're already outfitted now, or they would have to go through the upgrades before they would actually be delivered to the town?
No, they would be delivered to us and then taken to the upfitter. And generally that's taken 2 to 3 months because of supply chain issues as well.
Right. And these vehicles, these are already funded in the FY24 budget. That's right.
3 of those are. That's correct.
3.
We were able to have some savings with the purchase of the vehicle, so we had enough money. That's why we're asking for the authorization for the 4th vehicle, because it's available now. We don't know what it'll look like in FY 2025.
Understood, but that's a separate. The 4th vehicle is a separate agenda item, right, Mr. Mayor?
That's the next agenda item. That's correct.
That's what.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any additional council discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Yang, go ahead.
I know, Chief, you mentioned that these are vehicles that were ordered in July 2022. Are these the same vehicles, or they're different vehicles years later? I guess my question is more so around are you pleased or happy with the vehicles, or are we sort of settling for what, the best that we can get?
So to answer your question, these are the same vehicles that we ordered in FY 2023. However, they didn't come in, so we were able to. We went before the council, I think, in September, and we received 3 Dodge vehicles for FY 2023. These vehicles that are coming in now were ordered in July of 2022, so they're the same vehicles, but these are what we normally get. And yes, we are happy with those.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Coe, go ahead.
I'm not a car guy, so I don't want this to come across as a poor question, or I don't know. The fact that Ford is reducing the availability or discontinuing the availability, does that leave any trepidation in purchasing them? Do we feel like they may lack service after that, or has that not been the case?
No, I think what's explained to us is that they've been over ordered, so they can't fill the orders. So they're going to skip a year of production for the police interceptor package, not for the normal public.
Okay.
So no, we don't see an issue with the maintenance and such.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Additional council discussion? Any public comments? You know, I'm sure that there's a really good story about why these vehicles are suddenly available, but I probably don't even want to hear it. So I'll just skip ahead. So if there's no additional discussion, I will do a roll call vote on the motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of 3 police vehicles as described previously, and start with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
and Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Next legislative action item should be pretty dull at this point. May I please have a motion to authorize the town manager to approve the purchase of 1 police vehicle through Hertrick Fleet Services and upfit the vehicle through Frontline Mobile Tech.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Callan. So same discussion as previously. It's just that this one is available now, and if we pounce, we can have it. And if we don't, we might not see a new car for a few years. So is there any additional council discussion of this motion? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is the anticipated request in the 2025 budget for new police vehicles?
If I could answer that, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
We haven't worked that out yet. We know there's going to be a request for police vehicles, and included in that request will be an electric vehicle as a test vehicle for the command staff.
So we don't know what the number will be, but if we get this vehicle now, we know it'll be one less than the number that we don't know.
Correct, and I would say that the number will be if you don't get it, the number will be at least 2. And if you do get it, then whatever that number is will be reduced by 1.
Gotcha.
It all comes down to balance. Or we have vehicles being requested in both public works and in police, and I just got to figure out how we can fund as much as we can.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm concerned that we're buying a vehicle because it's there, not because we have decided it's a necessity at this point. And also that, you know, in various vision statements, as we've been reviewing those, we have noted, you know, specifically in its own section, our commitment to sustainability, but also sustainability appears in various other sections. Yet we keep finding reasons to buy gasoline powered vehicles. And we all say that it's imperative that we have more non-gasoline vehicles on the road generally, that it's imperative that we move our town, our own fleet off of gasoline powered vehicles, but we still keep finding reasons to approve the purchase of more of them. Yeah, I just note that for the council, and that, you know, at a certain point, we have to demonstrate that what our priorities are rather than just talking about them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Inyang, you unmuted. Do you wish to say something?
Yeah, I guess there's a point about but I can see the argument of, we know we're going to request 4 cars as an example next year, and we have an opportunity to get one early. And so not having that solidified, troubling as well. And so I guess, should I be convinced to think about, like, this is like, is there like an existing schedule of, we have X amount of cars that we know we're sort of at end of life, and we're in a many years process of trying to renew it. And so even though we don't have an exact number now, we know that there's going to be X amount of cars that are coming up for replacement. Is that an easier way to think about it?
I'm going to let Town Manager Listician answer that. I think he has a little bit more information than I do on this. So go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think the best way to understand this is that, one, we do have a vehicle replacement schedule. Whether we acquire a vehicle now or have one approved in a number of months and then whenever they come in, it's important, I think, to know that the vehicle that's being replaced is a 2015. So we have a vehicle that's nearly 9 years old that would be replaced by this new vehicle.
Got it. I guess it's helpful to have a schedule. And because I guess for me, the sticker shock is, I know it's like balancing we have the funds now and we have a vehicle that's ready now, versus if we requested these that we're getting now in 2022, like who knows when we'll get the next one. But also the earlier conversation we had about the farmers market, $200,000, and how that's like we're looking for funding there, and it's most of those funds are literally like going towards food insecurity, right? And so the additional funding, I guess let me ask the question so I'm not just reading it right. The funds that are available now that are freed up, that are allowing us to have this conversation, do we know where they came from, or like what changed in the budget that sort of opened this opportunity for us to potentially purchase this car?
And I would ask Mr. Jones to confirm my next statement, but I believe the funds are in the CIP for police vehicle replacements. Mr. Jones, is that where the funds are available from?
Yes, that is correct.
So that CIP was adopted by the council previously, and the funds are there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So in all of our CIPs, we make our best guesses. Sometimes things cost more. Sometimes we carry a balance forward. In this particular case, we have a balance that was carried forward, and so the funds are available.
Thank you.
Additional council discussion of the motion.
Do we know, is there a deadline for purchasing these vehicles?
Mr. Town Manager, Chief.
Acting Chief Turner, can you advise? That's information I don't know.
So yes, we either purchase the vehicle now or it's not going to be available. Correct. So it either we get the fourth vehicle or it goes back into, we have to make another order next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. And can you elaborate on what you meant about the production for 2024 not happening?
So we were told by our by Hertrick that Ford is not going to make the police version, the police Interceptor package for the 2024 Ford Explorer.
Okay. It's just that caught my ear, and so I did a quick lookup of news on that, and certainly don't want to substitute my 3 minutes of Googling for the work that I know went into coming up with this proposal. So please don't take it that way, but everything I'm seeing says the opposite, that they are not producing the Explorer hybrid model because they want to focus on filling orders for police Interceptor SUV hybrid models. So yeah, to the question about the deadline, that's something that I would like to investigate further. But I'm not sure if that's an option here. So just wanted to highlight those things.
But if I can maybe clarify, I think the way, so this order was made a while ago, right? So we had to wait a year and a half for the vehicles. So if we don't take possession of them, they'll just go to someone else that's been waiting. So we'll just go back in line again when, if we get approved for vehicles next year, then we'll put in another order. We may have to wait a while. We had the money, so we were just asking it this time, and since the vehicle was available.
Right. So this is kind of like me and my wife are at a concert and I go to get us 2 more beers, but I know that our buddy that went with us, he's 3/4 of the way through his, and he's going to need another one. So to prevent him from standing in line for that, I'm going to grab him one now and take it back. Is that accurate? Do I understand?
Sure, as long as you have the funds.
Right. Yeah, I'll make sure Councilmember Foe reimburses me for his beer. Thanks.
Now I get it. Thank you. I understand it now. I'm ready to vote, man.
Okay, any additional council discussion? Any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
No.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 4-1. And we require 4 affirmative votes on financial matters such as this, which we met. Okay, let me look at my agenda. Next item on the agenda is a motion to authorize the purchase and installation of playground equipment for the 54th Place Pocket Park and Tot Lot, CIP Project 22 PW04.
Director Lewis will walk the mayor and council through this. I will highlight that this is a significant purchase, Mr. Mayor and council, but we are under a really tight timeline to get federal funds expended. So with that, Director Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Good evening again, council members. Ms. Bond, can you pull up the final concept plan for the 54th Place Park? Thank you. The equipment as shown in the final concept plan includes playground equipment for ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, and additional equipment including several spinner apparatus, single and double bobble riders, and a WeGo swing for wheelchair-bound children. There's also furniture in the final design, specifically picnic tables and benches. That final concept also includes engineered wood fiber surface material for both the 2 to 5 and 5 to 12 play areas, and the poured and play rubber surfacings for the WeGo swing and Omni spinner. Staff solicited a quote from 2 vendors for the playground equipment included in the final concept plan for the park, plus installation and product delivery. Both companies provided competitive pricing for all of these items as participants in the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program, in which the town is a member. You may recall that the town purchased the all-in-one leaf vac machine through Sourcewell. Staff vetted the 2 proposals over the weekend with input from the on-call engineer, specifically Mark Sauer. You might remember him. He presented 3 concepts initially to the council, and then the final concept based on input from the mayor and council. In comparing the 2 estimates, we considered the amount of playground equipment included in the quote, the quality of that equipment, cost and delivery and installation schedules. On the delivery and installation, the timelines are essentially the same from both companies, with product delivery in April or May, with about a 3-week installation schedule following the delivery of the equipment. The cost differential is about $85,000 between the 2 quotes. regarding the amount of playground equipment in the quote. As I mentioned, the quality of that equipment and the cost, the playground designer with the concurrence of staff is recommending that we purchase the equipment from Landscape Structures Incorporated, or LSI, which submitted the higher bid. We are requesting council authorization to purchase this equipment from Landscape Structures for an amount not to exceed $256,995, reflecting a 10% contingency. The contingency is expected to cover any unforeseen issues related to the installation. The actual LSI quote is $233,632. As the manager mentioned, the project must be completed before the end of June as a condition of funding through the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program administered by Prince George's County. The project budget is $5,334. The engineering services fee is $19,000 of that, leaving a balance of $484,184 for the playground equipment, including installation and site preparation, the cost of which is unknown at this time. The engineers have submitted the engineering drawings for the project, and the permit is still pending. Subtracting the quote plus contingency will leave a balance of $227,189 for site preparation. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. And just to be clear, there's a whole big project that has to be completed by June 30th. And this is just the purchase of playground equipment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Point. As the manager mentioned earlier, we have a solicitation on the street for on-call construction services, actually for playground development.
Okay.
And that proposals are due January 25th.
Okay. Is someone after this briefing, is someone willing to make a motion to authorize the purchase of playground equipment for the 54th Place Pocket Park and Tot Lot?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Foe. Can you please, I don't see the dollar amount in the memo that I have. There may have been an updated memo. Can you please put that dollar amount into your motion? Director Lewis may have to read it to you.
So the not to exceed amount is $256,995.
Okay, and that's part of your motion, Councilmember Foe?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
All right, hold on.
So motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember.
Hold on.
Sorry, thank you. Second by Calon, motion by Foe, second by Calon for an amount not to exceed the number that was in the in the motion. Is there council discussion of this motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
I don't know. I was looking through the packet today, just trying to get ahead. And I see these images and I see this incredibly unique space. Very near where a lot of difficulty has happened in our community, a lot of negativity. And I see this just rectangle of a space that just, I don't know, it just stood out as beautiful for me today, that we could provide children an opportunity in a non-existent roadway after the process that we've been through, trying to locate property owners and stuff like this, for the end result to be something that looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heck of a job by staff, bringing this idea, utilization of this space, being able to give this to families in our community is such an incredible gift. Thank you for all the hard work, and I can't wait to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Is there additional council discussion of the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Calon, go ahead.
I'm skeptical a little bit about the parking system because they have a shopping center around this area. All right, the grocery, the shoppers who are coming to buy groceries while the children are playing over there, their parents are coming with their vehicles. So how are we going to manage this?
So the exposure, so the cars that you can see on the bottom part of the current drawing are parking in the apartment building. And above in the area that's shown white on the drawing is open space at this time. It's not a parking lot. The only exposure to the parking lot are to traffic are at the two ends of the park, the two very small ends of the park. One on Riverdale Road and the other onto the parking lot. And I believe that it's certainly the parking lot side is an enclosed fence, cast iron fence, steel fence, and will protect the children from the traffic should something happen.
So, Mr. Major, you want to tell me that the shopping center and the playground, they're going to have fence in between?
Yes,
So
but that piece of fence, I'm trying to get a idea of the size of it. I guess it's maybe 25 or 30 feet long. That's the only exposure, and the sides of the playground where there is no exposure is couple of hundred feet.
So the parents are not going to interfere with the shopping center parking lot?
That's correct.
Well, if that's happening, it's okay. But if they're going to interfere there, they're going to bring a problem, because the shoppers are, the people that are coming to buy, they have to park in their parking lot. The parents are coming with their children. If they say they're going to park there, they're going to bring a problem. But if that is excluded, well, I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, I think that certainly from what I've seen over there, and you may have more knowledge than I do, I think that a lot of the uses of this park will be people walking from nearby apartment buildings.
Okay, well, if that's the case, okay.
Okay. Any additional council discussion of the motion? Okay, I will do, I'll wait. Any public comments? Okay, do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Kalan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we've gotten out of legislative action items and we are into new business. The first item of new business is an agreement with Red Speed Maryland LLC for red light camera and parking permit enforcement systems. And this is in response to RFP number DPW 2023-004. Is there a presentation?
There is, Mr. Mayor, and we're not asking for any action this evening. Director Barnes is going to walk the mayor and council through the highlights of the agreement, draft agreement, I should say. And then we'll be looking for a nod from the council that we're on the right track. And then we'll bring back at the end of the month with the final agreement. I think we've addressed concerns that we've heard over the various presentations when we've talked about automated enforcement and contracts. So with that, Director Barnes, can you walk the council through those various slides?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. We have a couple of slides to share with you this evening regarding the draft agreement with Red Speed. If Director Shelton could share those just at the moment. Right, thank you very much. So back in October, the mayor and council authorized staff to negotiate an agreement with Red Speed Maryland LLC for red light camera and parking permit enforcement systems. This was part of a larger procurement process. And just to be very specific, these are two different services. Red Speed, the red light camera component is automated enforcement as we know it. The permit parking enforcement system is an automation of a process. So automated in two different ways, but those are important concepts when discussing the agreement with Red Speed. Next slide, please. Okay, so just as we discussed, the process for permit parking specifically is just an automated process, and the red light camera enforcement is automated enforcement. Next slide, please. The term of the agreement, the initial term is a 2-year term with an option of 5 one-year extensions. This was an important aspect of the agreement that staff worked very hard to lock this in at a 2-year initial term, since this is a relatively new program for the town. The pricing is different for obviously both aspects of the contract. So the red light enforcement component is a flat fee of $3,500 per month per unit. And then parking enforcement is a monthly billing per violation. The town will be billed at a minimum of 100 violations. And that's about $9.60 per ticket. Again, that's an automated process. A police officer will go out, identify the violation, and then a ticket will be issued. The final component is that either party can terminate the agreement without cause with at least 90 days advance written notice to either party. It's very standard language, but it was important that it was included in this agreement. And that's our final slide. Those are the highlights of the draft agreement.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Is there council questions about this, or is, well, a motion is not needed at this time, right? So council questions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead. I'll recognize you. I don't know if Councilmember Smith got his hand up, but I heard you
I was
first.
before him.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Councilmember Kellogg, go ahead.
Let me ask Director Barnes if he can enlighten me. I'm seeing 3,500. This 3,500 is a flat fee. What is that for? For like, so if you red camera touch somebody speed, red camera, going to pay 3,500?
No, $3,500 is the cost from the vendor, the cost to the town for that equipment and the services provided.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm okay about that. Thank you.
Certainly.
Councilmember Smith, do you still have a question?
Yes, about the same portion of the presentation, actually. So we're paying for 100 tickets issued per month, whether those tickets are issued or not.
As it relates to permit parking, yeah, or I'm sorry, parking enforcement, yes, we are. That's a minimum threshold.
So yes. Okay. And then what is I'm sorry if I missed this as you're presenting it, but what is the revenue we get for those tickets?
For the parking tickets, I would have to ask Acting Chief Turner, do you know what the fine is on the parking tickets?
Yes, a normal parking ticket such as a parking without a permit or parking where a sign says no parking is $50. Is $250 for a fire lane or handicap violation.
But that revenue under this would all come to the town. The vendor would they receive a portion of that, or it's just a flat fee?
The vendor's portion would be the $9. The $9.60.
Does that, I'm asking, does that come out of the fine, or is it we pay them $9.60 and the person who gets the fine gives us $50, or is it they give this company $50 and that company forwards us $40.40 of it?
I believe it's option 2, as you explained, Councilman Smith. I think that collection all happens through the through Red Speed or their subcontractor, and then we receive a portion back.
Got you. Thank you.
Certainly.
Yes, Dr. Barnes, let me ask another question for this parking permit. Is it a special places that people are not supposed to park? Is prohibited not to park there, or is all over the river town of Riverhead Park or our Hyattsville area?
And I believe it is in December of last year, the council established permit parking zones. So as it relates to just permit parking, there are very specific areas that we require a permit to park in those areas. But there are also other parking violations that are outside of just not having your permit displayed when you're parking. So it covers both of those things.
Please, can you furnish us that zone? Let us know the one that are prohibited not to park, the zone area not to park. If you can mail it to us, or I don't know what you're going to do, so we can store it.
I'd be happy to drop that in the mail to you, Councilman Colon, and then we could send it back out to the council via email as well.
Okay, that will be fine if you drop it in my mail.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Any additional council questions on this issue, this topic?
Yeah, I have a, it's good to, I guess one question I had was it just permit parking, but it's permit parking in addition to other parking violations? And then 2, the way to read this tab is essentially the town is paying.
Councilmember Inyang, it's your voice is very faint. If you can try to get a little bit better microphone pickup, it'd be great.
Is it better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
My headphone mic is not working. I guess the question I have is one, is the way to read this table about the market ticket issuance volume. When you mention like the flat rate, is it are we sort of billed by these volumes, or is it just we only get reimbursed after the tickets are paid, and depending on how many we had in a month, that's what the rate is per ticket?
So Councilman Inyang, that is actually part of the consideration when staff reviewed the proposals from the vendor. It's awfully hard to have data on exactly how many tickets are going to be written or may be written. So that was why this option was chosen. One item I would like to add that I neglected to add when we first talked about this, it also automates the permit issuance process. So all of that cost is included in this breakdown of per ticket cost, if you will. But the volume's a little difficult to anticipate. The minimum cap is, I guess, so that the vendor has something that comes back to them, which is the 100 tickets per month. But other than that, that $9.60 per ticket or per violation encompasses all the things we just talked about, all the services involved in that. Did that answer your question?
It did. And then my second question is, I know we've talked about permit parking in the Riverdale Park Station community. Is this something where we would need this to be in place before that can happen, or does it make sense for this to be in place before that can happen?
So it does make sense to have it in place before that happens. At any point in time, other areas of the town can be included in the permit parking area based on the process that the mayor and council adopted last year. So there are areas already in place that are calling and requesting this enforcement. That's probably, I'm sure all of you have heard the same request. Enforcement's really important part of the permit parking program, but there's a lot of other things related to parking violations that need to be addressed in town. So if the quickest we can do this, I think the better.
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, you wanted to add something to that?
I did. First, I would ask the acting chief, is it reasonable to expect that in a 24-hour period that an officer would write 0.83 of a ticket of a parking violation for each officer who's working a regular patrol shift?
Yes, I believe so. Obviously, depending on the availability and how busy we are, absolutely.
But in terms of averaging it out, and I'm just taking the 100 tickets in 30 days and 4 officers. I would think oftentimes we respond to situations and issue multiple tickets at one time.
Yes, absolutely we do.
And then as it relates to the pricing for the red light, the automated red light enforcement, there was different ways that the company proposed for both of these funding or fee modules or approaches. And the $3,500 flat fee, that the town's cost would be covered if 1.55 tickets per camera are issued per day. And if the traffic is such as we believe it is, the town will cover the expense. And then any additional revenue can be used to improve public safety programs and pay for public safety related expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I would just like to add, well, first of all, 1.5 red light tickets per day. I think that's pretty easy. I think I might see 1.5 violations per day on average, just myself. And I don't drive through town all that much. I tend to be driving elsewhere, but yeah, I see a lot of that. And the other one is that the parking tickets right now are being written, as I understand it, entirely by hand. So it's 1960s, 1950s style that the officer will write a ticket and slip it under there, and there'll be a carbon copy that gets processed and tracked. And so taking that to be an automated process with tracking of it, better tracking of it, just seems like a reasonable idea. Okay, any Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
Well, what I would need to know is, are we on the right track?
Okay.
We worked hard to get the pricing models where they are. We worked hard on the termination language. We worked hard on the term language, trying to meet the concerns that we've heard in mayor and council meetings. And we need to know whether or not it's that the council supports the pricing models, the term, and the termination, so we can finalize this and bring it back for approval. I mean, there's lots of other things in the agreement, lots of legalese. Mr. Sussman's been involved in all these meetings and going back and forth with attorneys on the other side. But really, it comes down to what's the term, what's the cost, and can we get out of this if it's not working for us? And so we need to know if we've hit the mark.
Okay. Just as a question that I have, I don't see any other hands up yet. The termination, the final slide, 90 days advance notice. So can you explain the initial 2-year term versus the 90 days? If we find it's not working 6 months in, then we can exercise the 90-day option, and then we don't have to stick it out through the first 2 years. Is that correct?
That's correct. And Director Barnes, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that is accurate.
Okay. And the red light cameras and supporting equipment will be installed at the expense of the contractor. Is that correct?
Director Barnes?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Okay, council questions or thoughts or feelings about this this proposed contract structure?
Yeah, is it feasible that we would that the town would write, the police would write 200 and tickets in a given month? I'm not sure what our baseline is that we're looking at here.
That's on the parking tickets.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, can the acting chief respond to that?
Please do.
There is a possibility, however, you start to gain compliance, so it may not average out to 200 tickets a citations a month. If that answers your question.
Sure. Can we scroll back up to that table? Yeah, it just occurs to me that if in a given month we do get, say we do get to 200, or say we get to 201, are we then paying the flat rate for that band, the 201 to 500, or are we paying per ticket at that point?
Director Barnes?
So once we get over the threshold of 200, it's my understanding that it's anything over that is the 660, but I'd have to get clarification on those things.
Yeah, I'm
My
just wondering if
apologies,
it's
the person who typically handles this is out
Oh,
this
no,
week. But,
no problem, no problem. Yeah, I'm just wondering if over 200 we're getting 660 per ticket, or we're paying for 500 tickets at $6.60 each. That would be my question, but I think in terms of guidance from the council, I estimate that you'll get what you need. But Mr. Listich, I know you and I have a mutual respect for each other's positions on automated enforcement, and I won't take the council's time with it now.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
May I respond? I really don't have a position. I'm just going to follow the lead of the council. But I appreciate your comments, sir. I think it's important to note that if we don't have a per violation on this automated process cost, then it's a flat fee, an annual fee. And Director Barnes, I don't know if you have that number at your fingertips, but it's my recollection that number was $31,000 to use their automated process at a flat fee. And so it'd be just under $2,600 a month if we went with that model. So based upon our volume, we thought this would be the best approach.
Yeah, I understand that and appreciate the clarification. My concern is that regardless of the model, it puts us in a place where we as a town have a pretty crappy incentive that we are paying for an amount of tickets to be written, or the flat fee for the year, if that's where the option to go to. But if we do not get enough revenue to cover either the band or the flat fee for the annual, then it's costing us money, right? So then we have an incentive to look for people to write tickets to get to that number. So that's my concern there.
So the $100 or the 100 tickets means that basically we have to pay them $960 a month minimum.
Yes, sir.
So if we write 0 tickets, then it's $960 a month. And I don't know, I think that that we are probably spending, for 50 tickets, we're probably spending staff time well in excess of $1,000 just processing them, the handwritten tickets at this time. So I would be as has been true with the the speed camera revenues on River Deck Court, you know, I'm happy to, if we get good enough compliance that we can stop writing tickets, I'm happy to pay $1,000 a month to have this as a tool that's available. Seems reasonable. Councilmember Yang, you're unmuted. You probably want to speak.
Yeah, it was, I guess the follow-up was going to happen about the, the rate is like a tax rate where you pay the per cost for what band you're in, or if we have 190 tickets for a particular month, let's try to get 11 tickets so we get over into the next band because we'll save $3 per ticket. So that's a fair thing to get clarification on. I think the parking table, I think that makes a ton of sense. Folks have sort of mentioned for the red light enforcement that it's not a similar rate, but it's more of a flat fee, and that we'll be able to sort of like meet the threshold, so we're not throwing money away. I forget if I think we've already like determined where the locations are, so I'm not going to bring that up again because I feel like I always forget. But we'll see. I think for me, I like the idea that like if it's not working, we can give 90 days notice and get out of it. I think that makes me feel a little better, so we can have a more data-driven decision about is this working or is it not? Or are we cutting it close? Is there another way to do it? If it was, we have to reevaluate in 5 years or 2 years. I probably wouldn't be able to really support it because this is net new and we haven't done it before for red light. So I think it's a good threading of the needle, and we can sort of evaluate and sort of see where we are. And then just the last point, is it going to be like the speed cameras where there's like this 2-month lag? I think that's just something to think about in terms of like our ability to sort of determine whether or not it's working for us. If it's something where, we're going to have to wait 2 months to figure out what we've done, and then we have 90 days, just something to think about in terms of how we logistically would sort of make that call and what.
Thank you, Councilmember Yang. So we'll get an answer to that by the end of January. And I think your point that that the pricing structure will determine whether we have an incentive to go and find an additional dozen cars. But as I said, I mean the amounts of money here are not ridiculously high, so I think we're not going to be doing that. I mean, if the thought of sending the officers out to write a dozen tickets to save a few $100s just doesn't make sense to me. I would certainly be upset if I heard that was happening.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can address that.
Mm-hmm.
The officers, they go out and they perform their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not thinking about the structure. Matter of fact, my guess is, and acting chief, correct me if I'm wrong, the officers aren't even going to know the details of this contract. That they have other things to think about and to worry about than whether or not we're near a threshold.
Sure.
And I have full confidence in the command staff of the police department that they're not monitoring this. That goes to our basic integrity as a law enforcement agency. And our integrity is such that we're not going to be doing that. I also think that it's the expectation of the council, at least my understanding, that we need to address these parking issues. And we all get the emails and the phone calls. There's people parking on this street, no permit. There's people parking here and no permit. There's someone parked at a fire hydrant. There's someone parked at a too close to a stop sign. And we all get that, or those types of complaints. So hopefully we'll modify behavior the same as we do through our other enforcement activities.
Okay. Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that if it came across as me meaning to that our officers would somehow be on their beat thinking, well, I wonder about that automated enforcement contract. That's absolutely not what I would believe is happening or would happen, or that our officers would take it in their hands to look for more tickets to write. My point was more about the incentives across government, whether it be the budget process, us as a council in creating that, that's where I think the pressure would come from with those kind of incentives. Certainly, I know our officers have a lot more to worry about than what we're talking about in terms of contracts on a Monday night.
And I will second that. I certainly did not mean to impugn the motives of the officers. I was just saying that it wouldn't even make sense. It wouldn't be a good use of resources, even if there was that small financial incentive. It wouldn't make sense. Okay, I think we have sounds like we have general
No,
consensus.
Mr. Mayor, I want to say
Oh.
something.
Sure, go ahead.
You know, this permit parking ticket, you know, people are very clever now. You see, we need additional to the economy, not to subtraction. And do we have a special people that give you this ticket or the police officers?
I believe it's just the police officer. We don't have dedicated staff writing tickets.
Well, the police are busy all the time. So how come they're going to leave their busy schedule going after people giving them tickets?
So,
That's one question. Two,
go ahead.
People, you know, many people now are clever. They know if one person park here, they gave him tickets, he will tell all his friends, don't park there anymore. If you park there, they're going to give you tickets. The only thing we can embark on, that red light camera, that will give us some revenue. That is parking tickets. People will, they will get away from the parking zone. So this is my own take. We need additional, not subtraction. If we put money there, I don't think we're going to get any revenue or benefit out of it. We're going to lose. So let's think about that. Thank you.
So the if I wish I had your faith that simply by writing enough parking tickets that people would stop parking illegally. I wish I could that was true and that we would be spending $1,000 a month. And
It gets my face now?
yeah, I can see your face. So spending $1,000 a month and writing 0 tickets because no one was parking illegally, but people park illegally all the time. People move into town, people are visiting and decide that they're going to park in front of a fire hydrant. And so there's always going to be enforcement. And I sincerely doubt that we will not meet that 100 ticket minimum just by the officers doing it. And part of the reason to invest in this program, to establish this contract, is so that the officers can write a ticket quickly. So rather than finding the book, writing the ticket, slipping it under, then they can probably just scan the license tag and it will print out the ticket and they will be in and out in under a minute. And so they see a car that's parked illegally while they're driving, they stop their car, they write a ticket, they get back in their car and they're done. And part of the deal is that's the way to efficiently enforce the parking laws. And if at least in the evening, which was just a regular weekday winter evening, that I went on a ride along with the police, then there were definitely plenty of opportunities for them to write parking tickets during the course of the evening when they were not on other calls, if they could do it quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, let me say this again. You see, there's a many way. If the police will have enough police officers, we can make money, because some people, they park at the handicap parking without handicap tag. When you go to this apartment complex, you can see a lot of handicap park. People park there, they don't have handicap tag. And that's just a lot of money, like $250 or $500. So if the police are inspecting these areas, they can give a lot of tickets over there. But I don't think, because we don't have enough police officers, that's another problem. Even those who have handicap tag, they don't have space to park there. Before you come, you meet people, they park all over at the handicap tag without handicap on their car. So this is another thing. I don't know what the deputy commander are going to say about this. Yeah, let them they visit this parking, the apartment complex parking lots. They can give a lot of tickets over there for that. Yes.
Acting Chief Turner, will the town be enforcing in apartment parking lots, or would that require a call from the apartment owner or property manager?
We absolutely can enforce handicap and fire lane violations. And I would recommend that most of the time we get calls, and that's generally how we're alerted to it, unless it's obvious, if we're there for something else. So I know, for instance, we were in Riverdale Park Station the other day issuing a parking citation, and the gentleman was telling us that everybody knows we're out enforcing because it's all over their Facebook page and people are talking about it. So I was happy to hear that.
That's good news. That's good to hear that. So
Very true. I can concur. Multiple emails and messages. They're out parking about daylight, near stop signs and outside of the parking strip. So, but actually, people were pretty appreciative of it, I will say. So, it's long overdue.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe that the overall structure of the contract is seems acceptable to the council. There's the open question of whether the cost per ticket is constant for the first 200 or not, but we can find that out next month and we'll know. And I would be surprised if it wasn't that its numbers 201 through 500 cost $6.60. I don't think there's a sudden discount when you cross over the 200 barrier. I'd be surprised at that.
And Mr. Mayor, we will be asking for a special legislative meeting at the end of the month just to get this moving. It's going to take a few months to get the parking system in place, and it may take up to 5 or 6 months to have the red light system in place.
Sure, understood. Okay. Any public comments or questions on this? I think the council has perhaps talked it all the way through. Still see a few members of the public here. So, okay, no comments. So let's move along on the agenda. We're under new business. Are there other items of new business from members of the council? I have 2 items of new business to discuss. One of them, I had a nice, relatively short, but a nice conversation with former Mayor Vernon Archer, who's living most of the time in Ipala now. And he mentioned that in about a week, the current mayor of Ipala, Edwin Javier, will be stepping down and be sworn in the Guatemalan Congress. And his brother, Luzvin Javier, who I met when I visited Ipala many years ago, has run and won the election to be mayor, and so will be sworn in as mayor at about the same time. And so the request I would have of the council is to write letters of congratulations to both of them on being sworn into their new roles. And if at all possible, I'd like a motion directing me to send a letter on behalf of the council, mayor and council to each of them, congratulating them on their achievement.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Lingua. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Foe. Is there any discussion of this motion? I just thought it would be, a nice gesture to congratulate them on their new roles as they're sworn in. Any additional council discussion? Any public comments? Councilmember Lingua, you want to say something?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, then I will move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. The other item came from County Council member Eric Olson. He and I have been discussing for several months the possibility of having so a little background, the MUTC zone, which just turned 20 years old, when the new zoning ordinance passed, was put into legacy status. So it was allowed to continue forward, and but it doesn't really fit in perfectly with the new zoning ordinance, and it has a sunset on it. So the zoning will end, I believe, 10 years after the passing of or after the effectiveness of the new zoning ordinance, which I think is about 7 or 8 years from now. And so I asked him when he was running for the seat if he would be willing to push to make the Mutsi zone take it out of legacy status and make it be a permanent fixture, permanent part of the zoning ordinance. And he and I have been discussing how that might happen, what the schedule would be, what challenges there are. And he is ready to move forward on it, but would like a formal letter of support of this to come from the town council of Riverdale Park. And so I would appreciate a motion directing me and staff to write and send a letter supporting the conversion of the legacy Mutsi zone into a permanent zone with no sunset.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. The topics that I will cover in that is just the high level of success we've had and the importance of the current structure, which depends on community members who have intense knowledge and also in general very strong skills. We have architects on the committee, business representatives, government representatives, and residents. And the inputs and the people who are on it are amazing, and we're able to work with the developers and get much higher quality development than I've seen elsewhere in the county in general. And so I will cover all those topics in the letter and would like to get that written as soon as possible. So any additional discussion by members of the council? Any public comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I can't resist. I'm going to vote aye on this because this zone is so near and dear to my heart. So the motion passes 6-0.
You better vote on it.
Okay, that concludes new business. Are there any other items of new business?
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
if I'm going to suggest it, might as well make a motion on it. That being for the mayor and council to instruct staff to send a letter of appreciation for the effort made by Ken Ullman to bring the front office of the Washington Commanders to the Discovery District located in Riverdale Park.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Callan to send a letter of appreciation to Kenneth Ullman for recruiting the front office of the Washington Commanders to their new headquarters in Riverdale Park. Is there council discussion?
Mr. Mayor. Oh, go ahead, Deb.
Please.
Councilmember
Go
Lingua,
right ahead.
Councilmember Lingua gets, as the maker of the motion, gets the first discussion if he wants it. He can defer also.
I will be brief. While I appreciate the second from Councilmember Kellogg, I will say that the silence that I heard from Councilmember Foe definitely proves to me that he is a diehard Steelers fan.
The only team I want in RP.
Okay,
Well, they might have issue with that, but anyway, it's nice to dream.
Councilmember Smith, you had a comment or something to say?
Yeah, I don't, just a suggestion that we ensure we copy, relevant people in government and, in the news media, on that letter that previously referenced, this project going to College Park.
Most of them were pretty good. I saw mostly Riverdale Parks, and I know that former county council member Danielle Glaros worked hard to with many people, many of the members of the press, to make sure Riverdale Park got mentioned.
Well,
No,
I
there
think
were a
somebody
few.
should have copied the governor's office on that email. I don't have his phone number anymore, so.
That's too bad. Okay, I think we can definitely CC appropriate members of the press and government.
I have no qualms with that as a friendly.
Okay, very good. Additional council discussion? Any public comments? I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang?
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. Okay, any additional items of new business? Okay, let's move on to unfinished business. Unfinished business number 1, review of revised vision and commitment statement, arts and recreation.
Director Barnes.
Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. We started this process in August, I believe, to start reviewing the vision and commitment statements. The last time we spoke about the vision and commitment for arts and recreations, there were some tweaks that needed to be made. Staff incorporated the changes and the comments made by the council. And at this point, we're seeking approval to put this on the agenda for adoption. Just hopefully these changes have encompassed the thoughts and feelings of the council.
So just to be clear, Director Barnes, you're seeking approval if the council finds it acceptable this evening?
Certainly, we'd like to put it on a future agenda if the mayor and council are happy with the changes.
Okay, so this is just for feedback and one final scrub. Okay, so council members I hope you've had a chance to look at them. Any additional changes required to this one, which is arts and recreation?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
No comments on the actual the wording of it. I think it's great. I guess for me, it was more so I was surprised to see that the Public Art Initiative has been around since 2015. And I forgot to bring it up earlier when we were talking about budget priorities of just like how much, made me think of how much teeth does something like this have in terms of, if someone read this, can we point to things that manifest itself because we have a vision statement like this? And so it's not necessarily feedback on the statement itself, but just, is there an opportunity, like, how do we think about this in terms of how it manifests itself in the large community? And does that somehow maybe impact the way we word things in here?
Any response from staff on this? I think you guys know better how you interpret these.
Director Barnes.
So when the Public Art Initiative was established, we were working with one partner to bring art to town. And so that has grown. I believe we talked about this just a few months ago about additional spaces where we will see public art. We've also seen lots of information come through. Actually, I think Councilman Inyang, you may have sent to us the grant opportunity for public art on the streets. So there's just a lot of different ways that we're seeing public art in the community. And so one of the comments that was made when we talked about this vision and commitment statement last was not to necessarily call out the one organization that we've worked with, but just more so to recognize the importance of public art in our community as a whole, and that we work with residents and organizations just to continuously support initiatives that bring art to our town.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. I do remember the comment about not calling folks out. Just something to think about. Of all the statements that I've read, I felt like this was the one that made me think, like, are we really living up to these ideals more than the others? So I think it's important that all the more reason why we have it. But I think there's work to be done to sort of like live up to the ideals that we're sort of mentioning here.
Okay, so any other feedback on the arts and recreation vision and commitment statement? Okay, shall we, let me get back to the agenda. I've lost track of it. So if there's no more on this, let's go ahead and move on to unfinished business item number 2, vision and commitment statements for professional and well-trained employees and for transportation. 2 separate vision and commitment statements there. So go ahead.
So Mayor Thompson and members of the council, this is the first time that we'll be reviewing these 2 specific vision and commitment statements. I will share that we received some feedback from the staff team on the vision and commitment for professional and well-trained employees. So we'll be incorporating those revisions for the mayor and council's review. But if there are any additional or initial rather thoughts or items that you would like to see included in the vision commitment statements or tweaked, please let us know and we can have those prepared for the next meeting for review, further review.
Okay, thank you. Council, any feedback? Can you scroll down to the vision, to the statement itself? Thank you. Anything missing? Any rewordings? Anything in there that any council member see?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
I don't know if this lands with anybody or not, but like I've done some really, really horrendous professional development throughout my professional career. And I just, again, one of these opportunities that we have the dialogue on HR as it pertains to our town's employees. I'd like to see meaningful professional development. Have a dialogue of what's useful, what's effective, honest dialogues about professional development so we can seek out great trainings, so we can talk and collaborate with people that are doing similar work that we are. We can share in ideas. I feel like a lot of times professional development focuses on top-down distribution of information, and it can be disengaging sometimes. And that's it. I just like meaningful professional development to be mentioned.
Well said. Councilmember, or excuse me, Town Manager Lestitian.
I appreciate that addition to the vision and commitment statement. I want to assure the council that that's what we have. That's what occurs here. The staff team help put together their recommended trainings. They're asked on an ongoing basis. What do you need? What would you like to do? And if it wasn't 10:34, I'd tell a story. But I'll save that for a follow-up discussion. But we do involve the staff team in developing training plans, and I think that's evident in how we prepare folks for in our succession planning. And it's also reflective in our relatively low turnover rate in a very competitive workplace.
I think it's one of those simple things that we can do as an employer that it really engages people in dialogues. And I feel like when I collaborate at that level, it does bring unity amongst colleagues, which, as you just said, impacts retention of employees.
Okay, any other council input on this vision and commitment statement? I'm interested to see what the staff revisions are. Looks this looked pretty good to me, but I'm interested to see what the staff thought should be added. Okay, if no one has any suggestions there, can we move on to transportation? Okay, any feedback from any members of, oh, can we go back to employee development, employee training, excuse me. Are there any public comments on this vision and commitment statement? Forgot to ask for those. Okay, then let's go ahead back to transportation. Anyone, any members of the council have comments? Suggested change?
And I would just say that, like, I thought this was, well done. And we know that I know there's a lot of overlap between a lot of these vision statements, but the suggestions, I think the updates that we've talked about before, and just like calling out explicitly sidewalks and biking, I think is definitely important for me. And I think for our town, knowing that traditionally it hasn't been built with that intentional of a focus of like one of the multimodals to sort of prioritize. I think that's a great vision to move forward with.
Okay. Any other council comments?
Mr. Mayor, something confused me here.
Okay.
I want to bring a motion, if it can fit the other members and the staff and the town manager. I want us to put a school bus stop sign where the school bus, they have to stop to pick up school children. I want us to install these signs along the roads where they stop to pick up the school children in the morning and in the afternoon. So I want to bring this emotion on, if we can do that, so that all the school bus drivers, they know where to go to stop and pick up their children, and the sign is there. The children can go there and stand there and wait for the bus. So
Okay.
that's my motion.
Okay, well, this isn't the right time to make such a motion. But since we're just discussing the vision and commitment statement at this time, I would request, and I'm sure that Town Manager Lestitian is going to request this if I don't, that we allow staff a little bit of time to investigate and provide a cost estimate for that, and let us understand what we're voting for. But we can definitely put that on the agenda to discuss at the work session at the end of January. Is that okay? That we move forward at that time?
Okay, that's be good, because some students are always confused. They don't know where they're going to stand. Sometimes the bus left them.
I understand completely. When my children were taking the school bus, then there was definitely nothing except a group of children there to let you know that that's where the stop was. And so having some signage would be helpful.
All right, thank you.
Additional council input on the transportation. I have some if no one else does. Any public input on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
I just sent a text. I don't protected bike lanes. I mean, should that be included as in this? Like, I mean, since we have produced a protected bike lane in our community, should we thrive in the future to continuously build that and provide that? I'm asking. I'm bouncing it off the room. See what your thoughts are.
Well, my number one change, and it's we need to slip it in a couple of different places. I only marked it once since this was the the first pass through, is to weave safety in here a little bit more. And so the first place that I saw it is a transportation network that is multimodal and provides safe, convenient, and equitable access to jobs. And I think there are a couple of other places that can be put in. And I think that the protected bike lanes are just a facet of the safety, because we know from the research literature that that the protected bike lanes improve safety for all three modes of transportation: drivers, pedestrians, and cars. And that lesser bike lanes, so painted but segregated bike lanes provide some protection to the bikes, and that the sharrows provide almost zero change. And so by winding safety in to the transportation network, then I think we will gain that sort of automatically, but also gain other benefits. It's good to be a little bit high level on some of these. Does that sound reasonable?
Absolutely.
Okay. Additional, Mr. Town Manager, you wanted to comment on that, or?
No, sir. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I just, yeah, have my mic off.
No, it's fine. Just saw your mic go live and thought you wanted to make a comment. So if we could scroll down just a little bit, the specific components. So in the middle of that paragraph, it has connected pedestrian infrastructure along roadways. And I'm not sure that we need the along roadways there. We want connected pedestrian infrastructure, but the hiker biker trail is typically not along a roadway, and that's an excellent piece of pedestrian infrastructure. So I would recommend just potentially, well, I would recommend removing it, but I'm happy to hear if there's a reason not to. I mean, we need pedestrian infrastructure along roadways. So maybe including along roadways, perhaps. I don't want to exclude other pedestrian infrastructure. So I'm going to throw that as a suggestion and let the staff chew on how to word it and how to make it fit in. That's okay with everyone else. And then I have one other, which is at the end of the next paragraph. Connectivity between neighboring municipalities is a necessity for the benefit of all. And I would just reword that. The wording I came up with, this is one of those things that it's hard to resist the urge to edit somebody else's prose. And so replacing replacing a necessity for the benefit of all to be needed to maximize the benefit of the transportation network for all users. So just a suggested possible rewording of that. And those are all of my suggestions for changing this one. Any ideas from the council, having seen these as a start? Okay, well, why don't we, if any public comments on the transportation vision and commitment statement? Okay, I look forward to seeing the next round of that as well. Let's move along to unfinished business 3, Riverdale Park Community and Municipal Center project update, the 6601 Baltimore Avenue project. I have some news to report. And our discussions with College Park Academy about possible shared use, about possible split use. Received an email a few days before Christmas, early Christmas present, that they are no longer interested in the space and appreciate that we have a strong vision for that space and for use of that space. And so they will be looking only at other locations for their their desired expansion. And the executive director, College Park Academy, wrote a very nice letter to Congressman Ivey expressing that. And I have restarted conversations with the Congressman's office about the process for having this move forward. And we'll be checking in every week or two to see see how things are moving along. So that's everything that I know. Is there anything from staff on this item?
Nothing additional, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Inyang, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, was this the so one, great to hear that they support our vision for it and are sort of looking to alternatives. I think kudos definitely goes to town staff of working to put a vision for the space. I think we talked about it months ago of just importance of really sort of crafting that vision, and then I think therefore everyone else will have to determine if they can have a different vision for it rather than just seeing it for what it is.
Right.
And I think that's benefit from this. Mr. Mayor, would you say that this like College Park Academy was like the sort of large outstanding piece in terms of like how it's kind of been?
It was definitely blocking progress because basically when I discussed this, we discussed this with Congressman Ivey's office. Then he basically said, can you and College Park Academy go and figure out a shared idea of how you want to move forward on this, and then come back to me after that. And so we've been having those discussions, and so now because we have a shared vision that the Riverdale Park vision will go forward and the College Park Academy will find space elsewhere, then his office will start working on it again.
Awesome.
But they were waiting on us.
Got it.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions about the 6601 Baltimore? Any public
yes.
questions or comments? Go ahead.
Just real quick. I know because of the article, like a ton of like comments, discussion, were sort of capping about this. And I was, in my head, I'm thinking like we've been talking about this for as long as I've been on the council. And so I think we may want to republish, if I don't know if there's been a new pass or any updates at all, but just like some of the like questions I saw were like kind of basic, just day one stuff that we've talked about. And so finding an opportunity to make it more publicly visible. I believe I know we were talking about maybe making like a website or a portion of the website to sort of like cover it. We should just think about like how do we engage it, because even though we've been talking about it for a while, like an article comes in and the engagement goes through the roof. And I think it's always helpful to just point people to this is the facts as we know it, this is what our vision is, and things like that. So
Okay, well, staff can certainly retweet, as it were, some of the previous posts, and can maybe we can slip something into the town crier for February about just reminding people that that this is where we are. but thank you for that suggestion, Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Councilmember Poe, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Oh, no, go.
I agree wholeheartedly. I feel like it's, I don't know, you see response and you're interested because of the engagement. I feel like just high yield developing talking points on community use. I feel like that's where people definitely got engaged about seeing the space as something different, something beautiful, something that we can access and utilize somewhere. You see the excitement about those things and it gets you excited as well. And I think we need to continue to dialogue about it, refine our talking points, make sure that, we are prepared to answer dialogues about this. It's incredibly exciting. And to think
It is.
it's remarkable. And I want to continue to dialogue about it and celebrate this potential use and possibility, because I think it's a positive for our community, a huge positive to be able to do this on that site. And I think it engages people unlike anything I've seen in my years of service to the community. So it's awesome.
Okay, great. Okay, any Councilmember Smith, you had something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, I'm not sure how far we have them scheduled out at this point, but this could be a topic for a community connections event, potentially.
Great idea. Fantastic idea. Okay. Anything else on this item, or can we move on to the town manager performance review? Public comments on 6601? Okay, so I didn't receive any feedback from council about the draft town manager performance review. In past years, one of the questions had generated several people saying, I don't have an answer for this, and so I rephrased that one a little bit. So the question previously was, does the manager cooperate and work well with neighboring communities and other government units, such as, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And so I added that and said, based on any interactions you've had with staff or elected officials from outside of Riverdale Park, does the manager cooperate well and work with neighboring communities, et cetera, et cetera? And I also bold-faced a little bit of the instructions. Other than that, it's the same. And I have an email message waiting to send out, since I'm supposed to provide this either before or during this meeting. Then I have an email message queued up so that I can send it out during this meeting. So is there any other feedback? Is everybody ready to start filling this out at the end of the month?
Mr. Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I have the form with me here, but I have a small thing that confused me.
Okay.
Now, I have from A, B, C, D, E. Okay? The questions.
Right.
A, B, C, D, E, right?
Yes.
So then you have a numbers here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 10.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if page 1, if I put number 7 on question 1A, then I have to put another number on question B, or all page 1 supposed to be 777.
You can each one can have its separate rating.
Why?
Excuse me?
I said why?
Well, because the questions touch on different issues.
But
So
when you read the questions, they all are similar. So instead, grade the man with one letter. Yeah, the question has all similar.
well,
There's no need to put question A, this number, question B, this number, question D, this number. No. Every page 1 if he puts number 7 on page 1, I think all supposed to be number 7.
Well, if certainly other council members in past years have had a variety of numbers on a given page. If you
No.
would like to put the same number in each one, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, because it's not necessary to say, and he said again, comment, make a comment. So if we put the number, the comment is okay.
The comments are actually
Yeah, the number represent the comment.
sure, and the comments are optional. They're very helpful in providing detailed feedback to the town manager, but they are optional.
If I say he's a very good man, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Well, this was my confusion because I have the form here. Well, they said here we don't have to fill it yet until 1/19/2024.
Right. You're supposed to give him to the end of the performance year, which ends on the 19th, and fill it out after that. And I will deliver you and Councilmember Mejia, anyone else who wants it, a printed copy, and I'll call you on your phone.
No, I have the printed copy here. I have it.
So-
That's what I'm saying. If
So you-
tomorrow
you-
I can fill everything and I drop it out.
Okay, you have the draft. The question has been slightly rephrased, but it's not enough that I think it matters. So if you want to fill out that version, that's fine.
Well, I will see what to do. Then number 2, I'm making a complaint here. My middle name was left out. Because on that day, I was giving my middle name. Mrs. Barnes said, oh no, but you see, my name look funny now. My name is Fode Sidiki Kalon, but I can put it Fode S Kalon. So I need that S in the middle because that is what is on all my documents.
And this was on the letter that she dropped.
Everything on my council papers is Fode Kalon. They left the S out. Fode S Kalon, Fode S Kalon. It's supposed to be like that. Even my passport and everything is Fode Sidiki Kalon, but you can put it Fode S Kalon.
Okay, I will bring this up with town manager tomorrow night when I have my phone
Yeah.
call with them.
Yeah,
We'll
even
see about getting you new cards and so on.
Yeah, because that it look funny. No. All my document pertaining my document in this council, they have to put that S, make a correction. For the S Kalon, for the S Kalon. Even
Okay.
on the, because sometimes when you go somewhere, you present this, they say, no, we don't have the middle number name here. So it's going to bring a problem.
This is fine. We can work on fixing this issue. And
Yeah.
I understand the issue myself because there are a lot of Alan Thompsons running around.
We have many for the Kalon, for the Kalon, for the Kalon.
Sure.
This is the problem. Even one of my cousins here, he's Mohamed Jabi. Then there are so many Mohamed Jabi. They went and violate traffic violation. This guy went to renew his driver's license. They said he owed more than $19,000. He said, not me. He said, well, you are Mohamed Jabi. Look at it. You see? So that's why I'm saying this. There's so many for the Kalon, man.
Understood. And as I said, I'll talk this over with the town manager. We'll figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't want to go into any problem. I don't want to go and put my feet into a red palm oil.
Okay. Very good.
All right.
Okay, so if you guys will give me 1 second, then I just sent the email, so I met my obligation as established in the schedule that we adopted. And are there any other items of unfinished business?
Send an email for what?
With the final versions of the questions. But you can, as I said, there's only a minor rewording of one of the questions. It's not.
I have my paper here. I will fill it tomorrow.
Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Any other items of unfinished business?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Lingua.
I'm going to keep this extremely brief, being that we are going on to hour 3.5 of this meeting. And just for everyone to keep in mind in consideration for the upcoming work session in regards to the letter that we just received recently from Prince George's County about their short-term and long-range plans regarding crossing guards.
Mhm.
As mentioned before, this is something that's, at least it's my feeling, and I haven't heard otherwise from anyone else. So my impression is that that it's a shared feeling that this is an ongoing dialogue. And I think what we may want to be thinking of to talk about next work at the next work session is a response to this letter that we received.
Okay.
So I'm not going to try and bring up anything right now. I mean, I did a quick read of it and need to just kind of go back over it and read it again and to come up with suggestions. But I think there are a number of things that just jumped out in general at me, as I would imagine it did with others who've read it that require follow-up. So,
Okay. Well, why don't you reach out to myself and town manager with ideas for things you'd like to see in the letter, and we can try to
Okay.
have something
Okay.
ready for the work session.
Okay. Well, not just myself, but I would suggest
sure.
that to anyone on council that between now and then that we do that, so we've got something roughly in place by the time we talk about it at the work session.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Foe?
I just was intrigued by what the council member had to say, because I felt the same way when I read it, and I didn't I need to reread it and give it a thorough reading, and I just believe that there was no discussion of communication, and that felt like it's something that needed to be dialogued or moving forward. So
Okay. Well, reach out, please, everyone. If send it to me, send it to the town manager as a CC, and or vice versa, and he and I will discuss and figure out something to have as a draft for next month or for later this month. Any additional items of unfinished business? May I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Callan. This is neither debated nor discussed. Move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 11:02 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Good night, everyone.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
Good night.